Let's do the damn thing.
Oh, you know what time it is. It's time to take it to the Birdland. It's about to go down. Hope y'all ready. Yeah, let's go. Come and roll with me to the Birdland. Friends got to giving you the word, man. Any other BS is absurd, man. Sports talk and they give it to you firsthand. They can talk Terps, they can talk O's. Yeah, they both lit. That's how it goes. Baltimore squad, Ravens and Poe. Better tune in. Here gonna the show. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS.
It's all about that BS, baby.
What's up, BSers?
It is a full-ish house tonight.
Yeah, man, I was all excited. I thought we were going to have all 5 of us in the studio tonight. We're one man down as he's fighting that China virus.
Michelle's not here. The baby ain't here.
Ryan, we're thinking about you home. I know it's. I know that shit
Wait,
sucks.
you say he's got a China virus? He was negative.
Well, according to the China test, he was negative.
Oh, okay.
We don't know how accurate that test is, but either way, man. Well wishes to you. Hope you're feeling better. I know how terrible that shit is. Had to experience it myself for a while, so
Yeah, it ain't
hopefully
fun.
you bounce back a lot faster than I did. Happy 2022, hon.
Super Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday on
And
all
it's
those
National
Tues.
Margarita Day, too.
That's right.
Where the hell's our margaritas? James, damn it.
Damn it, James. Came through with.
This is your house. They should already been down here when we got here.
That's right.
hey,
He
hey.
did come through with the Blue Moon.
You got a
moon
gift
haze.
tonight. Shut up.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, Ryan, we had our Christmas gifts finally come in February. I'll bring that home to you as a proper boyfriend would.
Make sure you mask up.
Yeah, right. We got a lot to cover on tonight's show. The Ravens, we're going to dive into some early offseason questions and scenarios as they prepare for some tough offseason decisions.
Yeah, and we're back to some bros, bows, and nos. Kinda, because we're going to talk former Oriole being in the spotlight after recent testimony, and the Birds get a new shed for their restructured outfield. I like that.
I like it.
The new Donahue.
Yeah. And this week's rundown, we're talking next-gen race cars, some big potential quarterback news, the little QB that cries woof, a junky horse at the Derby, and bitch slaps in the Big Ten. So we got a lot to cover this week, folks.
When you said junky horse, we started coming up a lot of different things. Wow, I didn't see that in there.
That's a play on words there.
Oh, man.
Before we do too much, though, we do got to remind you guys, if you haven't done this already, I don't know what you're doing. That team over at MD Crash that we've been telling you about for the last 2 years, well, they've expanded. More lawyers handling much broader spectrum of cases now, still handling all your auto accidents and injuries at work, of course, but now the team at Bowers, Hassan, and Herndon can help you with family laws, from divorce to custody to even child support. Save this number now. Update that number in your phone, 667-220-6500. Call or text them anytime for any of your needs. Again, get the team at Bowers, Hassan, and Herndon on the case for you. All right, fellas, so it is time for some Flock Talk. But before we talk Flock Talk, it's been a couple weeks. Obviously, we missed last week, so we apologize for not being here last week. We had some things pop up.
A lot of things going on last week.
Yeah, but we hadn't had a chance to talk about Super Bowl 56. You know, we got our predictions in and everything. And
James was the only one that was right.
no, I went Rams.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Rams.
You were the only one that was right.
Thank
Everybody
you.
else said Cincy.
Correction.
I mean,
was
I'm
the
so
one that
used
was
to
right.
him being right this year. I'm not used to saying that.
I was right with
Hey,
the
it's not
point
how
spread.
you start, it's how you finish. And I finished fucking strong. I got it right. The Rams end up beating the Bengals 23-20 in which was a very entertaining Super Bowl to close out what was a very, very entertaining playoff.
Yes.
Altogether, man. It was a fun game, a very close game, came down to a couple of big plays. But I think the biggest thing in this game that stood out was what we all kind of talked about, was going to be that pass rush, right? And Aaron Donald, I mean, he obviously ended the game with the sack and all that stuff. We said that Burrow was going to be under pressure, 7 sacks in the game. Ultimately, the difference in it.
Yeah, I mean, a difference maker early was OBJ because he started off hot in this game. Ends up, going to the turf. Gets hurt by the turf monster as he hurts his knee. I never actually heard. Did they call it an ACL strain?
No, he
No,
tore it.
he
Did he
tore
tear
his
it?
ACL.
Okay.
Same one.
Yep.
So
Different
Sucks that he went
it's the
down.
same
He had a good start, but it was a tighter game after that than it probably would have been had he been in the game the way he was playing.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he was a big factor in what that offense was doing, and obviously what that offense has kind of developed with him under it. It just goes to show that OBJ, as much as he's an ass clown as far as his personality goes, he wasn't the problem from a talent standpoint in Cleveland. We all know that now. We all see that now. But now this is his second knee injury that he's going to have to prove his way back from and rehab through, which sucks.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to that Aaron Donald play for a second, because maybe it was just me. I said something to Ryan, and Ryan kind of thought the same thing. I wanted to get your guys' take on this. On that Aaron Donald sack of Burrow at the end, Burrow just kind of like heaves the ball in P. Ryan's direction. Was it just me, or did P. Ryan legit look like he just didn't go after the ball? Because the ball was close to him from what I saw.
If he makes an effort there, it's a completely different scenario, 100%.
I just didn't understand. It's the last play of the game. I don't know if he just didn't see the ball coming his way, or he thought, like,
You know what that is? That's what
happens.
happens when you grow up in the Washington system.
Maybe that's true. Maybe that's true. Last damn play of the game for the Super Bowl to lose it. Obviously, had a couple of feel-good stories in here. Andrew Whitworth, the offensive lineman.
Walter Payton, Man of the Year.
Walter Payton, Man of the Year, gets to ride off in the sunset. You know, this was big for him. Obviously, you always want to finish with a championship, right?
Yeah.
Ray Lewis style, right? Go out with on a high. But he was told by Cincy like 5 years ago that he was a little too old.
Yeah.
And to not only win the Super Bowl, but to win it against that team that told you were too old.
100%.
Pretty sweet for Whitworth.
100%.
Pretty sweet.
But it's that feel-good story, right? It's the bittersweet moment for him. It's the fact that this is a guy that, despite everything with the Bengals, he's still, he grew up in their system, so to speak.
Yeah.
He was drafted by them, and ultimately, he's a guy that still is a community person. He still goes out to Cincy every year. Despite living in L.A., he goes out to Cincy multiple times a year, visits the children's hospitals and everything like that.
He's just a good all-around guy.
Good all-around guy. You hear the same thing on the field, right? Is the fact that people are really intrigued by him, want to talk to him, want to get to know him. How are you so, not successful with your organizations, but what makes you so driven to give back to the community? All those things. So he's a guy that I'm sure this is a guy that'll continue to be around football in some way, shape, or form. And it's just good to see in this situation.
He reminds me a lot of Bradley Bozeman, or Bradley Bozeman reminds me a lot of him. Just same like high character people. Obviously, both of them were up for the Walter Payton Man,
That's a
Man of the
Southern
Year.
boy.
They all do a lot of really good in the community.
And speaking of Cincy boys, you got to look at Joe Burrow in this game. Did you see the video of him like going around during the game, like especially in the first drive or two, like wanting to shake some of these guys' hands?
Yeah.
The Whitworths, the Donalds. He made it a point to do that during this game.
It's respect, man. It's showing appreciation for the game, your elders, the people that kind of laid the groundwork for you.
And it's taking a look. We've talked about what he's done, what he did in this game. He was sacked 7 times, but he still was 22 of 33, 263 yards. It wasn't out of this world, but it's respectable.
Yeah, I think where they struggled, obviously, the offensive line protection. I've been beating that like a drum for I don't know how long now. But their lack of success on third down was killer in this game. They were 3 of 14 on third down conversions. That's not going to get it done in most games. But again, Cincinnati's defense isn't a super strong defense. They're not like what they hang their hat on. They hang their hat on their offensive output. Their defense kept them in this game. And Matt Stafford made a couple of bonehead throws, couple of high-risk throws that ended up in
2 interceptions. Yeah.
Right, but 26 of 40 overall, 283 yards and 3 touchdowns. Still had a very good game, overcame those 2 interceptions, and was 6 of 15 on third down. So that's where you see the difference in this game. Little things like that go a long way. But we got to talk the real story of this game. What all of us in this fucking room, all of us, I guess we're borderline fucking millennials.
We have one
but we're
Gen
not.
Xer. All of us are millennials by definition.
Yeah, I swear those goalposts moved.
They did.
100%. Like 3 years ago, I was not a millennial.
At one point, millennials was defined as 90s, and then I think it moved to 86 or 85,
and
then
now
it
it's
moved back
81.
to 81. Yeah,
And I believe in none of that.
I don't understand that
It's
shit at
made
all.
up.
I am not a fucking millennial, but either way, I was super pumped for this halftime show. And it didn't disappoint. I mean, the only disappointment of it was that it wasn't long enough. You know what I mean? Like, the fact that they all performed live, they all sounded great. Obviously, Dr. Dre is a producer, right? So as much as we get into all this and what you see here and as much audio files as we are,
he's the god.
He is the god to all that, right?
Yeah.
And he obviously put that as a point of emphasis. So there was
a few things. I won't say I was disappointed, but like when they did, I don't know if you guys watched the pre-interview that they did the day before with all of them, you know, and Dre, I honestly think Dre's oversold it a little bit because he was like, oh, we got a bunch of surprises for y'all. I'm not going to tell you what they are. First thing I saw was the all-white stage and the all-white cars, and I went, oh, they're going to project something on them at the end of the show. Right. And my wife's sitting there watching. She goes, the lowriders, they got to bounce off the field in the lowriders, right? And it's like everything that is indicative of the hip hop community. It was like, it's all there, it's all set up, and then they all end and it goes away, and it was like, so 50 Cent was the only surprise?
Well, bro, so to that point, one, they hid the fact that 50 Cent was going to be a part of it, which I love 50.
Was good.
So it was cool. Obviously, everybody's making fun of him because he's putting on a little bit of weight, whatever. He still looks better than all of us.
Did you see him do the pull-up to get up there?
Yeah, right. He's still in good shape. He might be a little chunkier, but he's still in good shape. But, bro, they started playing California Love, and I thought, oh, shit, Tupac's alive. He's coming back. I thought for sure that was going to be the big surprise.
I said to Carrie, oh, they're going to bring out the hologram. They're going to bring out the hologram. Because they did that once before the show, was they did the Tupac hologram.
Right.
So, especially because, again, I think, in my opinion, Dre in that interview oversold it because he's like, oh, we got a bunch of surprises. To me, the only surprise was the fact that 50 was there. Because all of us could have guessed or had a pretty damn good guess at what the lineup of songs was going to be.
Yeah. That was very predictable as far as what songs were going to be played. Mary was the only one I was kind of back and forth because she had a few songs I thought she could go out with. She went a little slower than I thought, but that's Mary's vibe.
Yeah.
Overall,
I guess
it
maybe
was fucking great.
the pop surprise of Eminem. Right. Like how he came out and just like breaking it all apart because when he did come out in that time period, he broke the mold, so to speak. So I guess that, you know, the feelings of it, obviously the whole thing with him.
Ryan ruined my entire mood with the whole thing. He's like, you realize this just makes us feel older, right? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, this is the demographic that is now paying the way for the Super Bowl. So now you're going to see this. And he's like, all that shit that you saw in the 70s and 80s performers and all that stuff before, that's because that generation was affording the Super Bowl and paying for the tickets and all that stuff. Well, it's our generation now. So, yeah, for a minute there, I was like, God damn it, I am getting old. It reminded me I'm turning 40 in a couple of weeks, right? So there was that. But another side note from this game, and we'll move on. We'll start talking Ravens here in a minute, I promise, fans. The other thing that I wanted to say about this was the post-game rush to the hospital for Van Jefferson. As his wife was giving birth and all that stuff. The cool story with this whole thing is, one, obviously the baby was born healthy and all that stuff, but they ended up naming him Champ.
Yeah.
Because they won the Super Bowl. I thought it was a really, really cool story. You saw the video. I don't know if you got to see it. They showed a video later after the Super Bowl.
Of him running down the tunnel and running out.
Of him talking to his kids and being like, oh, we got to get going because mommy's having the baby, blah, 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 blah. And they pull him off to the side and he goes down the tunnel. Just a cool moment, man. Winning the Super Bowl and have your kid born at the same time.
Same day. It's just crazy. Again, all the feel-good stories around the Rams. You know, Aaron Donald, not sure if he's going to come back next year, right? I mean, he alluded potentially, you know what, I'm enjoying the moment, but he alluded that maybe he would retire. Who knows? But look, all around on that team, well-deserved. Weddle coming back, the way that he did, being the force that he was.
He said he's done.
Well, I mean, you were playing with a damn torn pec.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say tear his pectoral and still... Am I muted?
No, you're on.
Oh, okay, it didn't sound like... Yeah, but tearing his pectoral and, like, still playing. That was, like, the early second quarter. Like,
right.
Still played through it.
Yeah, man. That guy's tough as nails. And to come off the fucking streets. Now, granted, this guy was in stupid shape. You saw his picture when they showed his pec and all that stuff. 6-pack, 9-pack, whatever the fuck he's got. No, he didn't have any man titties. Still in good shape. Which he's actually a really good basketball player from what I've heard. I didn't realize that.
He was playing pickup basketball to do it.
Exactly.
James, you've been quiet over there. Any thoughts on the Super Bowl before we move on?
It was good. One of the best ones. One of the best ones in a long time because, I guess we all were like, oh, Brady, it's another Brady Super Bowl. But I really didn't care who really won. I thought there was a lot of bad calls for being a Super Bowl referees, like a lot on both sides of the ball. I think they could have cleaned it up a lot, especially that Patrick Ramsey push off. But
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. That was BS.
But besides that, it was a great game. But there was a lot of missed calls. I don't know if you got to get LASIK involved or get better glasses. But Aaron Donald was offsides on the first drive of the Cincinnati. So it is what it is. But it was a great game. I love the halftime show. I would love to get a pair of the M&M's Retro 3s that he's wearing. They're going to release them, but they're going to be on my price range.
I didn't get a good look at him. He was kneeing the entire time.
You play it good in Vegas. You might have enough money to buy the shoes.
All right.
So let's talk Ravens a little bit. Well, a lot of it, because we got a lot of news to cover with them. Today, just quickly, they did announce that they've hired Adrian Dixon as their new head athletic trainer. He was formerly with the Tennessee Titans prior as the director of physical therapy and sports rehab. This isn't, I think a lot of people are assuming that this is directly going to impact like the injuries and all that stuff. He's not strength and conditioning. Like, this is the guy that's going to handle physical therapy, the repairs of the injuries after the fact. His focus with the Titans was designing and managing their rehab programs for injured players. DeCosta said it became quite evident that Adrian possessed all the traits and skills necessary to help us become the best player wellness program in the NFL. So again, this just speaks to the organization and their entire, I mean, they're always evolving. They're always looking for ways to improve, and this is an area for them to do.
Another piece that I actually heard yesterday on the radio was that they were talking about the fact that they're actually bringing in, as consultants, they're bringing in a few of the, I don't know whether it's the doctors or like the lead trainers out of the Premier League, the soccer league. They're bringing them in as consultants to be able to look, because they've had over the, I guess the numbers show in all of sports, they've had some of the fewest injuries across all of sports. So how do they do it?
They have a lot more fake injuries than they do.
Well, and that's what the joke was.
Bunch
But it
of
was
bitches.
But at the same time, you know, it's those soft tissue injuries. They don't have nearly as many as some of the other sports around the world.
Right.
So it's kind of saying, okay, let's look at the numbers and by the numbers.
Yeah.
If we're a numbers organization, why would you not bring in somebody that's the best at it in that aspect?
That's what the Rams did this past year.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, and they obviously won the Super Bowl, right?
and kept guys healthy.
Works for them. Well, one of the things that we got to talk about too is I know fans get behind this and love to see this. We didn't see it a whole lot with Joe. We really didn't see this a whole lot with many of our quarterbacks in the past, but we saw Lamar getting his offseason workouts in, started right after the Super Bowl like he promised the Harbs, working out with Bateman and Prochet. What I saw was very limited, and what everybody saw out there on social media, it was little like 10, 15-second clips. It was like 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
Mobility looked good on his ankle. Could see a little bit of slight adjustments made in his mechanics, which I liked, but it's not a whole lot to take away from this. And I think fans need to put it in perspective. Like, just because you don't see a quarterback practicing or posting things to social media, it doesn't mean that they're not putting the work in. Like, I know as fans, we want constant coverage. We want constant availability. We want to see into these guys' personal lives and everything that they're doing. Poor decisions, good decisions, whatever it is.
I mean, haven't we all seen Kyler Murray doing it in virtual reality? I mean, it can work. No.
Right, exactly. But no, I mean, it was good to see that he was out there working out. It's good to see him working out with Bateman, because they need to work on that chemistry.
Yeah, so 2 things here as far as this is concerned for me. Number one, fans need to slow down. We just got over the Super Bowl, right? He's got a lot of time before we really get into mini camps and things like that.
Yeah.
It's still, those things are still months down the road. At the same time, Ravens and Lamar, slow down.
Right.
Do not press this too hard, too fast. The last thing you need this bone bruise turning into is something being like a hairline fracture or, you know, a plantar fasciitis, something along those lines that becomes a bigger deal, that becomes a continuous problem.
Right.
Slow down. Take it easy. I hope that was kind of the
I think it was. I didn't see anything overly aggressive. I mean, he's playing behind a couple of trash cans.
No, but what I'm saying is I don't want him to push it, right? And I don't want fans to think, okay, we need to see another video. We need to see another. Slow down on both sides. It's great that he's getting out there and working it.
Needs to run.
But are the mechanic adjustments because the foot is still bothering him a little bit?
No, these were good mechanic adjustments.
Okay.
These were things in his arm angle, things in his footwork. He looked more like 2019 Lamar. He He didn't have anybody rushing him. He didn't have his offensive line
pressure.
in front of him. There was no pressure, so that's going to kind of come, and it's going to happen. So we'll see what happens in actual game speed. But
I was going to say the same thing when I used to play Madden. I forget. I think it was 2013 or whatever when he used to do the training thing. I looked great on there, but when the game kicked on, I didn't look too great. So we'll see. But his ass needs to be start running. Bone bruise. You're like 23 years old. You need to be fine by now. If you're not, we got problems.
Well, I don't know. Bone bruises can be finicky depending on where it is and all that stuff. So we'll see. We'll see.
Get them cheap.
But it is the offseason, like we said. There's a lot of questions for the Ravens to answer, and there's going to be a lot of things that unfold over the next 2 months. And we're probably going to be talking about a lot of this stuff. Who stays? Who goes? Who do we add through free agency? What do we target through the draft? Obviously, the draft is coming up in April, right? So we got a lot of things happening.
And we're going to be breaking these things down. Obviously, you guys know this is the slower time of year right now, especially because of the MLB lockout. There's not a lot of Oriole stuff going on either. So we're going to kind of take the next several weeks to really break down some of the things that we're going to be looking at, some of the guys that we're looking at. This week, we're going to talk a little bit about the draft and where we think they're going to go. And then in the coming weeks, as we get closer to the draft, we'll start looking at specific guys and individual players. But the other thing I want to bring up a little bit later is going to be talking about some free agency and some free agency rumors and things that fans are pressing for and clamoring for. So I want to kind of get into that as well. But we just as a reminder, if we don't talk about it tonight, it doesn't mean that we're not going to talk about it later because
it's a weekly
we have
show,
a few
folks. We got a
weeks.
lot of time to fill.
We got a lot of time to fill, and we got 5 opinions. Well, 4 tonight that they're always here and always want to have to
You
say.
never know who's going to be here. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the NFL draft. Just to let you guys know when that is. So it's April 28th through the 30th from Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas.
Literally 2 months away.
Yep. First round is April 28th, starts at 8 p.m. Rounds 2 through 3, Friday the 29th at 7 p.m. 4 through 7, April 30th at 12 p.m. Right now, as we stand, Ravens have a projected 10 picks as they are right now. They've got the number 14 overall in the first round, 45 overall the second round, 76 overall in the third round. This is where it gets a cluster. I mean, they've got a ton of picks.
Because I was going to say, you get all the compensatory picks, you get all the trade picks and all that stuff.
Yep. So they've got 2 third-round picks, and then they end up having 5 fourth-round picks projected with all the compensatory picks. And then you've got the 6th round that they got from the Dolphins in the Greg Manis signing, or Greg Manis trade. So there's a lot of pickups that there are, a lot of draft picks that they have. It'll be interesting to see. We know that the Ravens are going to be shuffling around the draft, up, down, left, right, BA, select, start. They're going to be all over the place, right? That's just how the Ravens are. Because they're going to be kind of tight up against the cap, it'll be interesting to see if they actually draft all 10, or do they package some of these picks and move up. I know that's, as a Ravens fan, we always want to see them move up and get the better player, right? In certain situations, I think some fans are realistic where they drop back.
We've seen a few years where they've traded up in the first round.
We've definitely seen that more from DeCosta than we saw with Ozzie. So it'll be interesting to see what they do here.
So I want to ask you this, right? So since we're kind of talking, let's keep it very broad right now.
Okay.
Right? So when you look at the Ravens right now, there's obviously, we can see a lot of holes because of guys leaving for free agency, holes that we had last year, injuries. When you look at this draft and you're looking at just simply targets, what are you targeting? What are you looking at for this draft as your area, your biggest area of need? Let's start with that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think if anybody's paying attention to anything with the Ravens, the biggest need is going to be offensive line. Really, the trenches on both sides. Offensive line
I was waiting for that.
And defensive line. They got to get better in the trenches, right? Offensive line, they've got the question mark at center. Obviously, Bozeman is going to be getting a pretty big payday.
I think there's a bigger question mark than center, but...
Well, I'm just saying. I'm going down the list. So at center, they've got that question mark because Bozeman's going to demand a big contract. Do they go through free agency? Do they go with who they've got? Do they draft a center, which there's a projected high drafted center around that mid-tier that we could be at 14 with Lindenbaum. We'll talk about him later. And then obviously you got a lot of question marks at tackle, right? The Ronnie Stanley situation, right?
Yeah.
Ronnie Stanley, we just don't know how he's if he's going to come back from that injury status. I mean, I have not heard anything from the Castle, even in the press conferences from Eric DeCosta and Harbaugh, that made me concrete feel good that Ronnie Stanley is going to be back. This could be career ending, unfortunately.
Yeah,
we don't know.
That's the thing that makes you so uneasy is when you hear nothing.
Right.
Right? Because it's okay, are they like it's not even like okay, he's going to having surgery. It's like we haven't heard anything.
Right.
And that's the part that's like, okay, what's going on here? Especially when you know that a good portion of your salary cap is devoted to this one guy.
Exactly.
And so you have to kind of do that. And then the fact that you have no protection on the other side, no consistent protection on the other side. Let me put it that way. That's a problem. And so I think if you're looking at this, regardless of Ronnie's situational status going into the draft, to me, a left tackle and the left tackle of your future has to be on your radar.
Yeah, I mean, you have to get a guy that, I mean, you can't put all your chips in a basket with Ronnie Stanley. I know you paid him that way, but based on the injury, you can't put all your chips in one stack with Ronnie. So you have question marks at right tackle to begin with. You've got Macari stepped in there and filled in admirably once they actually
Just
gave the spot
a little
to him.
above serviceable, I would call that.
He did pretty well at right tackle. I was okay with him there. I do not want him as our long-term right tackle. I think
who I don't want at right tackle?
I think he plays better as a swing guy, and I think he plays better inside. He could be.
I think that's what it is.
He could move the center. It
But
could
then-
be Tristan Colon. There's a lot of pieces that could still have to form out, but I think targeting a tackle in general that can move right side or left side is super crucial early on in this draft. And the problem with it is there's not a ton of talent. There's only a few really top tier tackles from all the draft experts out there that are available.
The thing with those guys too is that there are some draft pundits that are saying you could get those guys in the second and third rounds.
I don't know, man, because tackles go so fast because they're so crucial to a success of a team and a quarterback. You got a lot of teams that are going to rely on them, and we don't have that many options.
But we did see last year, we saw a few tackles fall in the draft last year.
We had a lot more tackles on the board last year than we have this year.
Fair enough.
That's the problem.
Fair enough. All
There's
right.
not a lot of options there. So that's priority number one for me is offensive line, and a close 1B's defense.
So to me, it's funny because last year, that's where I was, right? This year, I turn the tide, and I think your higher priority is you got to get younger on that interior defensive line.
You think defensive line is a higher priority than protecting your franchise quarterback?
You're losing two guys.
Okay.
All right. We haven't signed. You're not signing Big Baby back. He's going to be either too
More
old
than
or too
likely.
expensive in most people's cases. Campbell, as much as people know that he's been having conversations, what does he want? He wants a ring.
Yeah, he said he wants to come back, but he hasn't said he wants to come back to Baltimore. He hasn't clearly said that yet.
And
so
we
we'll
know
see.
him and EDC have both admitted to having conversations with each other. The problem is Campbell's probably going, I'm going to go with who I think has the best shot at the Super Bowl. So you, EDC, I'll be willing to go this much, but you got to show me that this team is going to be ready, because he's not dumb. He sees what's happening on the defensive line. That means more work for him too, right? Which is a higher grade for injury. So the two of those guys being gone, we saw what happened on the outsides last year. Houston is back, but I know that it wasn't the production we were expecting on the outside. So you have to have guys on the outside to offset the inside a little bit.
Well, I separate those. Outside linebacker, defensive ends. I separate that from interior defensive
I
line.
do, but what I'm saying is if those guys aren't able to perform and do their jobs, that doesn't allow the interior to do their job either.
Right.
They have to set the edge, which then forces the guys to run up the middle, and
No, I
then
get
they can
you.
stop them.
And then the other question mark, too, is Derek Wolfe, right? He had that late decision to get surgery and all that stuff. So when's his availability? When's he going to be available?
Right, and then from that interior standpoint as well, again, Calais Campbell's also looking at it going, well, what the hell are you guys doing at linebacker? Because the guy that was at linebacker that was the biggest leap this year got fucking hurt in the last game of the season.
Right.
So now your linebacker core has question marks on it. So that interior defensive line, you need to shore up. to accommodate for those linebackers that you've got.
They gotta
allow
get
your
younger.
edge. You have to do that. You can't have all those veterans on the front and expect them to be able to stop some of these guys for long term.
I think everybody in this room would agree. I think we all had much higher expectations for Justin Madubuike last year and expected him to perform a lot better than he did. Not saying he was a problem child.
He stepped in and did
I just
better.
expected him to be more of a standout. I mean, I predicted him to be the defensive MVP for our team this year.
We all know me and you were like,
Yeah, very high on him.
Stop talking about it for August.
So Drew, for you, what's the biggest target position for you? So for Fred, he said kind of offensive line is where he's thinking. I'm thinking interior defensive. Where are you going?
It's sad. Like it is like those. I don't bring anything different.
Yeah.
It's exactly what everything you guys both said. I know you can't obviously only got one 14th pick. It'd be a different story if you had like the 14th and the 20th somehow, or I don't know if you could pull off trades and
You got 5 fourth rounders. Doesn't mean you can't trade up.
I don't know if anybody's taking 5 fourth rounders for like a high end one, but so I don't really have anything. Yeah, I mean that would be to me like those are those things of need because. Right now, like just say where it is right now, it's literally just Madubuike and Washington on that line. That's all it really is.
That's the only youth depth you have.
And I still think it's cool that Campbell came here, but at this point, it's kind of like you're up there in age. Like I don't want you to bring him back. If he was coming back, and the deal made sense, and you definitely solidified the defensive line in some way, sure, but you can't. He can't come back
if he's an added piece.
Yes, but he can't come back.
He can't
and
be
the
the piece.
That's the same thing I felt like with Brandon Williams going into last year. On top of that, like they couldn't be that then, and then they had to be, and you were lost. But so I can't. Nothing really to change. Like with what you guys said with both offensive line and defensive line, like that trenches. Like when you have a quarterback that's going to be making money, like that's the stuff you solidify. Now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do it now. Doesn't matter.
And to your point, you started going on the outside. That's my next position group that they need to address is still address outside linebacker. They need to get more athleticism. They need to get more speed. You got to get younger.
Yeah.
You got McPhee, who was on the 1 year deal. I doubt he comes back. Justin Houston. I don't know, if he enjoyed his time here in the system that he was in, because obviously he wasn't as productive here as he has been in recent past years, but he's also getting up there in age. Does he want to come back and chase a ring? Does he believe in Mike McDonald's system versus Wink's system? So there's question marks with other Justin Houston and affordability. Can the Ravens afford him? Does he take another crazy team-friendly deal to be here to chase another ring? There's question marks with him. Bowser and Dalen Hayes coming back from injuries. Bowser got hurt late, like you said. Yeah. Hayes never came back his rookie year. Like he's been dealing with injuries. Owe, apparently there was some rumors out there that he had recent surgery to repair a labrum in his right shoulder. He's been dealing with Penn State. So you got all these question marks at
Penn
outside
State guys
linebacker.
coming here are injured. What the hell, James?
I don't think it was anything serious. He's going to play. He'll be ready for training camp. He'll be fine.
I'm not worried about him, but it definitely needs, at least in this setting where we're at, you need to bring it up. Like he did have surgery.
So I noticed there's one area that none of us have said, and I'm curious, given the factors that are playing into this position group, and that's really the secondary.
Oh, it's
right as a whole, right? Because safety, what's going to happen with Joker? Right? Is Deshaun Elliott going to be around? Is he not? We've talked about this for 2 years now, that they need a ball hawk safety, a guy that can do that. But in order to do that, you got to have those lockdown corners, which you had. But those two guys that you had are getting older and coming off of injuries.
Right.
So you got those things. Tavon contract. I'm done with him, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Really? Yeah. Nope.
I don't know. I like, to me, he was the best tackler on this defense this year. He was the only one that was the most fundamental. He finally played a full 17-game schedule. He played the whole season. I understand the injury history in the past, but if you're what have you done for me lately, he played 17 games. He was the best tackler on a very poor tackling team.
He played 17 games because everybody else was fucking injured.
Still, when healthy, a top 10 slot corner in the league. They do not grow on trees, and there's no guarantee through the draft that you're going to be able to get him. In my opinion, I think the smarter route with Tavon is a contract restructure. If he doesn't agree to that, then I entertain the idea of cutting him to save that cap space, which we'll talk a little bit about that later. But I don't want to give up on Tavon yet. But I do agree with you. I think secondary is a big issue because we saw it this year. I mean, a couple of injuries to your star guys, and you've got McDonald's workers out there playing secondary for you, and you've got guys that are forced into positions playing inside or outside that they're not comfortable with or haven't played before.
You don't think Anthony Averett has upped his game after this past year to show that he can handle this?
Yeah, but he's going to demand a bigger contract, and the Ravens just don't have the money to spend on him. That's the problem.
He's going to demand more than Tavon?
Yeah, but they
probably.
I think he
Not
will.
by much. If I'm having one or the other, I'm taking Averett all day long.
There are teams out there that are so desperate for cornerback help.
They're going to so far overpay him.
They're going to overpay, especially with the cap increasing and all that stuff. He's going to get a hit with
the
a
Bengals
pretty
got
big
to replace
payday.
Eli Apple, so you know.
He can go to the Bengals and be QB or cornerback one.
Drew, so what you kind of started on Tavon, right?
Should have traded Wade, but that's
what's your thought
story.
like on the secondary as a whole? Where are you going? And then I want to get your thoughts on this too, James.
I mean, I definitely think, how high or in the draft or what. I mean, they're definitely adding a corner or two.
Yeah.
They
always do.
Yeah, they always do.
Their history says they draft a corner every year.
Like a Tavon Young, you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm with you, Scott. Like I get it. Tavon Young. Yeah, compared this season, yes, but it's just like it's still like the glass is. He's made of glass. Same with Elliott. I don't know. No small amount of money to me, even for Elliott, has him getting paid and spending any kind of cap space on him. You know what I mean? Just spending cap space.
If you
on
could
these
get rid
guys.
of both of them and take Averett, would you?
Get rid of who? Elliott.
If you get rid of Elliott and Tavon to handle for Averett,
keep Averett? No.
You wouldn't do that?
No.
With the way those two guys can barely be one player as it is at this point.
Because I don't know. I don't believe in Averett in the slot. If that's anything, I believe in him more outside, and then that forces Marlowe back to the slot, which he is a great slot cornerback.
He's put on the weight to do it.
But he's getting paid to play outside. He's getting paid to shut down the number one wide receivers on teams. So I don't know. Listen, there's a lot of shuffling that they're going to have to figure out with the cap
it's
space.
It's all theory right now. So
Peters is a key to me.
Yeah, Peters' health is key.
The key to me. Well, because it is. It's health and coming back and doing exactly what you expect him to do. But it's also like you got one more year. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you extend them, and that kind of pushes the money down, and it opens up for paying someone else extra money that's still here or enticing a free agent?
We have a request, by the way. You're being asked to hug Fred.
Hug.
To give Fred a hug.
Joe, okay. Buddy, I miss you.
There you go.
Can't wait for Vegas, big man.
You're such a dick.
All right, James.
All right, James.
Where do you stand?
So here's my question to you, James, really quickly, and I want you to answer this, right? So talking about the secondary, talking about safety first specifically, right? We all know Deshaun Elliott is coming up for a big payday, probably somewhere else. I feel like Chuck Clark and Deshaun Elliott are too similar of safeties together. I think they're good. I think they're both good, but they're too similar, and I don't think either one of them is a ball-hawking safety. Do you agree with that? Do you want to see Deshaun come back? Or you'd rather see them go after that center fielder?
I'd rather just go with center fielder, but I'm a little bit different. I think differently. I think it's time to blow it up. It's sort of like down, for our locals that know about Ocean City, you have these old hotels on nice property. I think it's time to blow up this team. Not in a way, but put it all on the offense now.
You've said it before.
Shift the money.
Put the shift. No, but I'm ready. We have seen it where our defense has always been our butter.
Right.
I would love it to say, fuck the defense this year. Get the guys to fill in, but start putting your investment into Lamar. Get the line going. Get your offensive weapons. I don't want to hear
Did those words just come out of his mouth?
I'm like in shock right now.
I don't want to hear any crying about Lamar didn't have this, that. If you're going to pay this guy top dollar,
he had an ulterior motive.
top dollar, let's go. Let's change
do
the
it right.
blueprint.
If you're going to do it right.
You have a great foundation. You have great property. Time to tear down the foundation and build a new one. And it starts with the offense. And let Baltimore become an offensive system now. And like the defense, like I don't want Calais Campbell back. I love the guy. I don't need any more locker rooms. I need fucking people that want to play, get to the quarterback. I'm tired of what I think it's time to take a step back from the defense. I think EDC has said, we're going to bring Peters back. I think we're going to have him, and he might not be happy because he might have a lot of like shit to do to cover and address the offense, and let's get this going.
Well, naturally, you're going to see that happen anyway because they already dumped the money into Mark Andrews because his contract was up. And look, he was the best tight end in football, right? They just dumped all that money into Ronnie Stanley, and the day later, he fucked his ankle up, and now he might be out for a career, right?
Zeitler. Yeah.
Zeitler, they put money into.
Like a good investment so far.
Right. They're going to have to put up, obviously, $40+ million. Yes, $40+ million a year for Lamar there, James. And there's all that money is going to eventually switch over to the offensive side. So that's naturally going to happen. And Hollywood, not to mention, is not retiring to play video games for you out there that all fell for the goddamn idiot on Twitter. Jesus Christ.
That was a different Drew, by the way.
Yeah, not all at all affiliated with Drew Nickerson on our shoe.
The weed.
I have that love-hate for Hollywood. I would have been calling retirement. I would have literally been like, he's going to start going by Riddler Brown if I'm going to put a tweet out.
No, like the one thing, as William chimed in, he said, "Can somebody please talk Marshall Yanda into coming back and playing?"
Right. He's going to need to put on 200 pounds before he comes back.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody get that man a few cakes. But no, I think when you look at some of the things that they need to do, James is right. I mean, you need to. And I think you're not going to get a deal. I'm a firm believer that a deal is not going to happen until Lamar sees what they do to protect him. I truly believe that. There are some people that disagree with me, and that they have their reasons, but I've said it in some of the Twitter spaces I've been in here recently. Shout out to She Talks Football.
Scott is like the Twitter space queen.
Yeah, I know, right? Jackass.
I even think he's going to play with a one-year franchise, Lamar.
It could be.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll see.
I
doubt it, but it could.
No, I think he is. And him having his mom as an agent doesn't help anything. But nothing's going to get done.
Mom's not his agent.
Well,
his mom's a part of the console.
His mom, they talked about that he
a real agent would have had done deal by now.
Nah, not necessarily.
I don't agree with that.
Not necessarily.
I agree and disagree with that. Yeah.
Josh Allen.
I think if Fred could go to a funeral home and take top players from a person, I think Fred could be his agent and get the fucking deal done. Dude.
Here we go.
All right. But anyway, so
it's the fact. And I found out this weekend we were playing a fucking game. Fred's a fucking salesman. It's just terrible. I'm not playing games with Fred anymore, dude.
I'll tell you this: don't play Cards Against Humanity against this guy. He will whoop your ass like nobody's business.
I'm good at card games. Whatever.
Yeah. What? No, well, kind of until you can't walk away.
Right.
When they get to mine and they start reading it out loud, I start giggling my ass off. I never play that game sober, so I've never won that game.
Man.
All right, so we talked about draft targets, right? We talked about positions and needs and all that stuff. I want to talk about the names out there that are creating some buzz on Twitter and social media out there.
I definitely want to talk about this.
There's some free agent names out there. I think some of these names are pipe dreams, and obviously Ravens fans, we all do it, right? We all look at all these players out there. We read in to their posts and everything that they put out, and we all hope that eventually they're all going to sign with the Ravens. But money doesn't grow on trees. Well, for the Ravens, it might grow on a tree, but we can't spend it all because
paper is from trees.
Well,
just saying.
Hold on,
Scott. Trees.
Hold on, Scott. Put your plug in. Williams asking for.
Scott,
how can I get one? All right. So if you guys don't know where to get it, go to our website, www.birdlandbs.com. While you're there, you can check out all of our episodes, but make sure you check out the gear section.
If you're on Twitter, hit the bio link in our bio. It'll take you to everything that you need.
Facebook has it too. So go check it out.
So speaking of the safety position, because we were just talking about the secondary, obviously the name that's been out there that a lot of fans are clamoring for, Tyrann Mathieu, with Deshaun Elliott potentially signing elsewhere. Do we see maybe them go after him in free agency? Obviously, if Deshaun Elliott goes away and they don't draft a safety high in the draft, do they have enough faith in Brandon Stevens, who showed a lot of development over the course of the year as a rookie? I was not high on Stevens when we first drafted him as that project, but I'll be honest with you, his athleticism showed through, his ability to learn on the fly and get better was good. He got better as the year goes on. And then obviously we didn't see a whole lot out of Washington, but he showed flashes in the preseason. He looked good. Do the Ravens have faith in those guys? Geno Stone, or are they bringing a guy like Matthew?
So here's the thing about Matthew, right? And I got into a discussion, I'll call it. It was a fairly healthy discussion, but there was some disagreement back and forth on a Twitter space about somebody talking about, Tyrann Mathieu, he's not going to be that expensive, it's worth it, da-da-da. Tyrann Mathieu last year, his cap hit was $19 million.
Yeah.
Because of the guaranteed money. He's not cheap. And I said his cap hit, and people were saying, oh, that's not his contract. His cap hit is the totality of his contract. Right. That's signing bonus and everything. So when you're talking about guaranteed money, this would have to be structured in a way. If you're bringing a guy like him on, he is wanting a 3-year deal.
This is the last
and
deal.
He's wanting somewhere around $13 to $15 million a year. That's what he's looking for. So if you're going to do that, it has to be structured. The Ravens, it doesn't make sense to me for the Ravens to go out and get him and pay that much. He is a good safety. I will give him that. But I don't think the value is there when your money is tied up. So much more money is tied up elsewhere.
This was the move they should have made instead of Earl Thomas a few years ago.
There you go.
You brought up what I was going to say. Because all it reminds me of now is the money you gave Earl Thomas instead of him. And then in general, like now you're going to do it a few years later.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's just, it's going to be too much money.
In a similar situation, he left.
Almost an exact situation, really.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
I mean, maybe he has different sexcapades. You might not be.
Well, I don't know. To me, it's a bit of a pipe dream. There are some value picks in the draft at safety, one of which we're very familiar with. Nick Cross is going to be in the draft. I'd love to see the Ravens steal him from Maryland in like that third or fourth round.
That's for sure.
I think he'd be a great fit in this system.
Ryan's from 6 to midnight. When
Ryan's full staff right now. He's hard as a rock. I would love to see Nick
and if
Cross.
He's got two guys on the outside like that, he can be that ball hawking safety because he doesn't have to worry about coverage. This past year, some people argue that maybe he hurt his draft value a little bit, but it's because of the fact that he was running all over the place, having to cover for other deficiencies for the Terps. So that kind of goes into it. But you mentioned a core group earlier in the outside linebacker, and there's a name that's being floated out as a former Raven coming back into a familiar organization. Outside linebackers, Zadarius Smith, formerly of the Packers. Thoughts on him coming back? It's creating a lot of buzz.
Listen, the only reason it's creating buzz is because he's cryptic tweeting eyeballs. That's it. Literally, it's just a picture of the eyeballs, and everybody is, come home. He's working behind the scenes. He wants to come back to the Ravens Nation. I would love to see Zadarius Smith. I didn't want Zadarius Smith to ever go, but at the price tag that he's going to demand, he's going to be 30 years old when the season starts. He's coming off a season-ending.
He's looking for a final payday.
He's coming off season-ending back surgery.
Yeah, but he played.
There's big risk, in my opinion, with anybody with back issues.
I'll say this, though. He
played against the 49ers.
In the last game, I understand that, but that was just more so like, fuck, I'm here. I got to play. Like, I don't know how 100% that he is.
That's what he's doing.
He hasn't played in a little over a year other than that one game. So I don't know. There's a lot of risk there. In Green Bay, he had the 13.5 sacks and 12.5 in 2020. So he was very productive there. And in this Mike McDonald system, maybe we see that type of production from the outside linebackers again here in Baltimore. And it would be great to have a piece like Zadarius Smith.
But if that were the case, he's going to need Owe to be the other.
Right.
I forget the guy's Preston Smith.
Right.
He's gonna,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like he did really great in Green Bay, but he also had that other side.
So here's one thing, and I know it's obviously a different system with Wink not here, but look at the past few years when you've brought in guys that you have been great outside linebackers elsewhere.
Yeah.
You bring them here, and the production isn't nearly quite what we thought it would be. Multiple guys it's happened with, right? It's not just an anomaly of one guy. It's multiple guys now that this has happened with lower production than what maybe fans are expecting. Maybe the Ravens are expecting it to happen. But I think when you look at that,
Ryan,
what is he doing now?
Drifting off to sleep to those golden pipes.
Oh, God, of course he is. But one of the things I think you have to look at is, what's the market what are the guys you can have? And we talk about
his
this
contract demands are going to be high. So
it's the only thing that he's got that we have going for us is him coming off of the contract of the surgery. Is that somebody might look at him and go, dude, we're not willing to put out that much money for you in that. So maybe he's one of those guys that doesn't come on till late and has a smaller contract than what he was originally getting. Kind of like what happened with Houston, right? Houston was a late situation before when he got his original contract. Everybody thought, oh, he's going to go. And then here it was. We were getting ready to start mini camps, and he wasn't there in anywhere. So it winds up working out.
I think an outside linebacker, a guy that would make more sense if you're going to spend that kind of money, would be Hassan Reddick. He's 27. He's a few years younger than Zadarius Smith. He doesn't have the injury history.
Coming out of that Arizona defense, too.
Very, very similar sack production, 12.5 and 11 in 2021. He signed a 1-year deal with Carolina last year, and even in his first year in that system, like I said, he had 11 sacks. So I think a guy like him, if you're going to sign anybody to a 3 or 4 year deal, I'd rather see them do that. I know we know what to expect out of Zadarius Smith, but I think Reddick's fit, again, on the opposite side of Owe, I think would make a lot of sense in this defense.
I got to give a quick shout out, by the way. I just got a text. Yeah. Hey, Ari and Dave, thanks for watching.
Yeah, I appreciate it for sure. So I think he makes a lot of sense. But here's the other guy that's been drifted out there. And I wanted to get your takes on this because obviously we talked about it earlier. Center, right, being a position of need. Bradley Bozeman probably going to get top 5 center money in the league, more than likely. Price his way out of Baltimore. Well, an interesting name is on the market after Tom Brady retired. Ryan Jensen, former center for theRavens, right? Another guy that I just loved when he was here, and I don't love very many redheads. There's like maybe one redhead in my life that I've ever loved. He's that gritty, tough nose, just get in your face guy.
Spit in your face.
I always remember like the incident against was it Calico Alonso, the Dolphins.
The Dolphins
when he knocked out Joe.
When he knocked out Joe, and Jensen was there in his defense right away. That play has always stuck with me since the day it happened, and that just speaks to who he is, right? He protects his own. He is everything that you want in that mean, nasty streak player on your offensive line.
And he's grown a lot since he was here last.
Right. And he's played 2 years with the GOAT, to your point, right? He's played 2 years in that system under the best quarterback ever, so he's probably learned quite a bit over time that could help him.
He could be a guy that helps Lamar read coverages.
Yeah.
He saw the best do it.
And here's the other thing that I really don't want to see. We all know, and I've been talking about it, the emphasis for Cincinnati to improve their offensive line. I do not want to see Ryan Jensen in Cincinnati. So if this signing purely blocks him from going to Cincinnati and helps us, that is a win-win for us. It's huge because I do not want to see Ryan Jensen on the offensive line have to play against him twice a year.
And if you remember a few weeks back, I said, like, this would be a name that would be interesting to hear if he would be willing to come back. The relationship there, coming back to where it all started for him, right? In a new, providing that we're trying to get younger on that line, right? Providing that wisdom, playing in a great system, in a different system, in a passing system for the most part, especially the latter half of this past season. So he can do a lot of things. I think there's a little bit there. The contract has to be right. I will say this because I think somebody could pick
I'm with you, Garnett. I like Linderbaum.
Somebody could pick him up, and that's the piece that you have to weigh, right? Do you go after a guy like Jensen in free agency, which is probably going to be a 2-year contract at most, right? Most centers,
I don't know.
Maybe 3 years.
We've had some centers come in here, Matt Burke, and who was the other guy that was here that was older before after Burke?
Shit.
There was another guy, but we've done that in the past with some older guys. 3-4 year deal, I think, for Ryan Jensen's not a bad play. I mean, locking up that center position for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, especially knowing who he is and knowing what he brings to the table.
Well,
I agree.
Speaking of coming back, right? Let's look at a few guys. Most of these we've already kind of talked about. Let's just give a quick synopsis whether we think these guys, as of right now, are coming back, or would it be smart for the Ravens to bring him back? We'll bring up the one that we've already talked about, Calais Campbell. Like you said, he announced publicly on some TV show or some TV broadcast. I don't even know what it was.
It was like Sky Network in England or something.
England, that's where it was.
Like on their Super Bowl broadcast.
I saw that,
which
right.
is so random, it feels.
Well, he announced he's not retiring this year, that he is coming back. So he didn't say anything about coming back to Baltimore with the Ravens, but he did say he was coming back. But listen, last year he played 15 games, had 1.5 sacks. You know, I know he was super effective in the run game, but Calais Campbell has always been close to a double-digit sack producer, even from the interior. And he's a guy that can move all over, inside from the zero all the way outside. You know, he can move everywhere on the defensive line. We know that we heard from Eric DeCasa that they had talks preliminary about him coming back and whether that would be a good fit here.
Which EDC did confirm in a later interview that he had talks with EDC.
Right. He absolutely wants a Super Bowl ring. I don't think money is going to determine.
Number one priority for him.
It's not going to determine whether he signs with one team versus the other. It's going to be who gives him the best opportunity to win a Super Bowl. Real quick, Calais Campbell, does he come back or not?
Like to see him back, but I don't think he is. I don't think this team, as it sits right now, this team's not structured in a way that I think makes sense that he would come back.
James.
Not worth it.
Not worth it. Okay. Simple. Man, a few words. Drew.
Mm-hmm.
I won't even speak. I was just going to shake my head, but I didn't know if I was on camera or not.
Yeah, so I think we're all in agreement here. I don't think Calais come back. I love him. I love the person.
I still think it's cool that he came here. Like, I think he's still was a good fit. And
that's it, Garnett. Zuda. That's right. Couldn't think of his goddamn name.
To me, it did work out per se, but it's just at a certain point, like I said, if you're going to bring him in and have that threat of him being the key defensive lineman, can't have it.
Right. The other one on that defensive line that we've talked a little bit about, big baby, Brandon Williams. Age and contract, the money is going to be an issue versus production. I'm not going to say he had a bad year this year. I think he actually played pretty decent when he was out there. We all know what kind of force he is in the run game. He is a dominant player in the run game, but the contract is to the point where is it worth the money? And when you're trying to pinch pennies and you're going to have to pay other people at other positions, and we've already talked about they've got some good young players in Broderick and Matabuike there, and they're more than likely going to continue to get younger through the draft. Mm-hmm. I think Brandon Williams is expendable, and I think it's smarter for the team to move on.
I'm torn on this one.
Really? Okay.
Honestly, because we've talked about this. There is a absolute clear, undoubted difference in this defensive front when Baby is not out there.
I agree.
Am I willing to say I'm not going to pay him? I'm not going to overpay him, but I'm hoping that I can offer him and entice him with maybe a 4 or 5 year deal.
Woo.
Hold on, hear me out. That is a lower cost each year to keep him longer, to pay him longer. And I say that in the simple fact that
he's going to start getting his AARP cards before he even retires off that contract. Jesus.
I say that because of that fact. Go look at the numbers. There is a difference in what teams are able to do against the defensive front over the past several years. We're not talking a 1 or 2 year thing. We're talking almost his entire career. There has been a difference when he's been on the field.
I don't argue that, but a 4 or 5 year contract
for a guy that might not be able to stay
again,
on the field.
I'm not doing anything more than 1 or 2 years.
When I say 4 or 5, I'm going 4 or 5 at a lower cost. So I'm still giving him the money that I think he wants, but I can't afford to give up that cap space in a shorter period of time. If you're talking 3 year deal, 2 or 3 year deal at an astronomical amount of money that he's gonna want, it can't happen. It's not gonna happen.
I don't think the market's gonna be there for him. I think he's got more value here with the Ravens than he does on the market.
Well, and that's why I'm hoping that in conversation drives it down. It's basically a contract of, why don't you retire a Raven?
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's why I say that longer term.
James, big baby.
Nah. You can't pay a guy that can't stay on the field. I don't care if he's a present when you're in there. If you get 2 games out of him and you're paying for him, what's the big deal? He's Happy Meal money to me. He can go off somewhere else.
He ate the Happy Meal.
Drew, what do you got?
Happy Meal money. I'm using that term from now on. Same exact thing as James. It is there's a reason you were saying when he's on the field, it's great. Well, there's a reason why you're saying he was on the field when he's not on the field, because there's games that he's missing.
Yeah,
it's not games that they electively didn't play that week. He just is hurt.
Right. All right, it's a good point. All right, so let's talk secondary, because we've already talked these guys too. Tavon Young, Anthony Averett. Young coming off his best season, like I said, first full season in a few years. So I know he's got the injury-prone history, but he was able to get over that hump this year. Still, like I said, top 10 slot corner in the league, in my opinion, when he's healthy. I think for me, this is a guy that, yes, you potentially cut him because you can save almost $6 million by cutting him, or you restructure, extend him, and lower that cap hit. And I think if he can agree to that and you get it done for like a 3-year extension, I think that makes sense because, again, productivity is still a top 10 corner in the league, and he did play 17 games this year. That's my
Top
opinion.
10 corner this year.
Top 10 slot corner, sorry.
This year.
This past year.
He was
I
healthy.
think he was a top 10 slot corner this past year, yes.
This past year. That's it.
And
That's it. That's
before
it.
he signed the contract.
Because he's always hurt.
Before he signed the contract.
He's the fucking
get it.
Riddler. He's a goddamn enigma.
I get it.
No,
That's why I said the restructure is crucial to it.
Yeah.
I said if you can restructure it and really get the cap hit down each year, then fine. Otherwise, I don't think it's worth it. I think there's other options out there that give you just as much hope, just as much hope. I didn't say production. I said hope. All right, because you're
call
hoping
nobody
if
a
you give him a deal that he's going to stay on the field. So, but no, I said it before. I'm done with him. I think Drew kind of probably agrees that you're done with. You said earlier you were done with him too.
Yes. I mean, I am. I'd like to see them move on, but Fred's point really does hold water still with me too. To give a little bit of benefit of the doubt, if you're structuring the deal around, if you're structuring the deal around, and it makes sense for the cap and it eases the cap. At that point, yes, you take it. He's still a body, and he's still a body you would trust when he is on the field. But it just, I get it. I just some of these injury-prone guys, like I said, with him and Elliott, I'm kind of over that whole glass. It's your glass.
I get it. James, what do you think, Tavon Young?
I like what Garnett say. Either you trade him or cut him, you just tell him, hey, go shop around. If you get a better contract, sign with them. If not, the door's wide open.
Yeah.
Come back.
Well, he's not going to shop around because he's still under contract. The Ravens
If you
would
cut
have
him,
to either
if you
cut
cut
him.
him,
Yeah, you'd have to cut him. All right, so the other name, like I said, in the secondary, Anthony Averett. Like I said, I'm pretty sure, in my opinion, he's played well enough to earn cornerback 2, maybe low cornerback 1 type money from another team that's desperate for cornerback help. Listen, he's very durable. He's reliable. He hasn't been an injury-prone guy. Has he dealt with a few things here and there? Yes. But, again, thrust into the position that he was in this year, being from, cornerback 4, if you count Tavon, cornerback 4 to cornerback 1 in the middle of this year because of all the injuries. I thought he played pretty well. Did he have some miscommunication issues? Yes, that led to big touchdowns. But is that on him? Is that on coaching? We talked about that with somebody's got to fall on the sword with the communication issues because it wasn't just Anthony Averett. It was the entire secondary. It was the entire linebacker corps.
No matter who was out there.
Everybody, right? So I think personally Anthony Averett's gone because he's earned too big of a contract.
I think he's gone, but I am throwing an offer out to him. I'm figuring out an offer that makes sense for us, that keeps him here, and hope. No,
Make it rain.
Well, if I'm saving money on Tavon, then maybe I'm making it rain a little bit more on Anthony Averett. No, but I'm looking at it and I'm saying let's throw out an offer that is viable.
That beer is terrible. We'll talk about it.
That is viable for us. That can allow us to really exploit him and hope that maybe he's saying, look, I like it here. I love it. There's some guys. Look. Some guys are money motivated. Other guys are motivated because they like the culture. They like what they're doing. They're looking and saying they're doing it. There's not many of those guys out there. I agree with that. I understand where you're laughing at.
Are you just taking this stance to take the opposite stance of what I took?
He does do stuff like that.
That's why I'm asking him. I don't know if he's serious on this one or not.
Again, I'm throwing an offer out to him just to see what he says.
I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
You're not gonna. If you can entertain the idea of throwing an offer out to him, you're not gonna throw an offer out to the guy.
Yeah, I like that.
Hey, will you come back and play for $5?
Take backsies because you're gone. See you later. We don't need you.
If you can offer him as much money as you're paying Tavon Young right now, you would take Tavon.
He's getting more than that.
I understand his market value is more. What I'm saying is, it depends on what he wants out of this.
It's just a waste of time, though, at that point.
Yeah.
Drew, tell us how you feel.
Okay.
A guy like that, you don't think, like you said, though, he's going to get a cornerback 2 number. There's a lot of shitty teams in his league that are lesser down, like a Jets, like a Bengals. They're not shitty because they made the Super Bowl.
But does he want to go there?
But Money
Why
talks,
wouldn't you?
though.
Money, and you just went to a Super
But
Bowl.
offering him a deal doesn't do anything. I could sit there and offer him 5 years, $100 million. If someone says 5 years, $140 million, he's going to take the $140 million deal.
Then let
He's
him. But
getting the bag,
first
as
you throw
Garnett
it out
said.
there.
There's no point even wasting your time talking to him.
All I
about
know
it.
is I'm surprised Scott missed him. I thought we were going to have Jimmy Smith on here. But I think we should bring him back for another year. We can put him on a good deal. We can get 3 games out of him.
No.
You
You missed it.
can definitely
Scott's
go.
approach is, well, we'll bring him back as a coach, and he'll be a coach this year. And then if we got to put him in a uniform halfway through the year, we can do that. We can move him to safety. We can put him at quarterback. We can do him anything.
We can send him to Jimmy's.
It's the Sherman deal, all right?
He can make Jimmy's runs for us. All right. I think this one's going to be quick and a name that I think we're all going to unanimously agree on. Villanueva.
Oh, you guys don't want him around?
Yeah.
No.
If we give him a good deal to come back,
Offer him, like, you know, give him,
Don't
he'll take
sell
a
me
pay
on
cut.
this one,
Hey,
Scott. Please don't sell me
give
on
him
this.
handicap
See if he'll take
parking.
a pay cut.
We'll give him handicap
Nobody can
parking.
hear it because these two guys are yelling.
Hey, Fred, we'll give him handicap parking. Be a little bit closer. He can walk it less.
He
so
looked
might-
like he needed handicap parking this year. He was so terrible
I
out there.
think he had a meet and greet with my son one time. And
They're going to save $6 million on the cap if he's cut. There's obviously been rumors about
No,
him
that would
retiring.
be Ryan, by the way, because he went to Ryan's work.
oh, that's right. Yeah.
There's no reason to go through why he was a bad fit. He was
just
It didn't work out.
It didn't work out. He played terribly. Villanueva, he gone. An interesting name that got brought up that I want to see where everybody is with this. And I want to present this case because there's a lot of pros and there are some cons with this. Sam Cooke.
Gone.
Okay. All right. Well, let me plead my case here.
I know
right?
that.
He's going to be 40 this year. So obviously that's not playing in the cards well and could retire. So there's that, right? He could retire. Is the money worth the production with him? Is he easily replaced like some people say he is? And I knew James shaking his head over there. If he's cut, it's going to end up saving $2 million in cap space. So it's not a huge savings, but it's $2 million, right? When you look at his statistics this year, he was 44.4 average yards per punt, his lowest since 2010. 27th overall in the league. His 40-yard net average.
How many are in the league?
32.
Okay.
His 40-yard net average was 18th in the league, so middle of the pack. Longest punt was 61 yards, which is 28th overall.
That's probably in dome.
But here's where it's critical. Like, you can get all caught up in those stats. The most critical part is he had 26 punts inside the 20-yard line. He was 9th in the league, right? So he's still a productive. Is he as productive as he was? No. He's 40, right? We're not going to be as productive. Lord knows I'm not as productive as I was as a person at 40 years old, right? But the biggest immeasurable that you have to take into consideration with Sam Cooke is his consistency as a holder and the relationship that he has with Tucker. Because I understand that you can say you can find punters out there. There's punters every year that are graduating college and whatnot, and you can get one undrafted and all that. But Sam Cooke brings a model of consistency
There we go again.
in the kicking game with Tucker. And I do think that there's something to be said with that. You know, the whole long snapper thing and losing Morgan Cox and all that stuff. I was even hesitant to do that, but Nick Moore proved to
They
be
didn't
pretty
even
good
use
with that.
Tucker to kick, so what does it matter? You don't need a place kicker.
That's a whole nother conversation there, but
Hey,
I don't know.
Did you see Ryan?
I didn't see Ryan.
Ryan
Fred is so old. He wants Sam Cooke back. He can't handle being older than the whole team. Go fuck yourself, sir. Take a nap, you COVID freak. No, just joking. So here's the thing. Sam Cooke, okay, again, you just heard me. There's pros, there's cons on both sides. I'm still pro Sam Cooke for another year. What's your take?
I agree. I mean, when you look at the inside the 20 piece is huge,
Yeah.
right? He's also there's been times where, to James's point, when we should have been dragging special teams out there, we haven't been. And that includes some fourth down on the other side of the field where you should be putting Sam Cooke out there and that you're not.
Right.
So there's to kind of put that out there. And the net piece to this, right? So you brought up the whole punt, right? The actual distance of the punt.
Garnett.
One of the things that I would bring up is the net punt, right? The highest in the league last year was Anger, who had 44.6. Cook was at 40 even, right? So while you're bringing up the idea that he's 40-yard net average, that 18th overall he's still average. He's still showing you as an average
Middle of the
average
pack.
guy.
Yeah.
So the experience, and to your point, I think it plays a role. It sucks to bring the Wolf back. Is there a guy like maybe Johnny Townsend shows him up next year?
Yeah.
Maybe it happens. But I think it's his spot to lose until he loses it.
James, what do you think of Sam Cook?
Nah, he lost it after all these years, and you guys get me to football games and seeing how bad the Terps special teams are. I seen Terps kickers kick further than fucking Sam Cook has. I love the guy. I love the guy, but all these younger guys have these techniques.
Kick it in the end zone.
Techniques of like putting spins on the ball, the way it dropping the nose.
He's got all that.
Nah,
He's like the Swiss Army knife of punters.
Nah, his leg is gone. Maybe as a backup quarterback, we could sign him to.
Still a beast of throwing the ball. That's right.
But nah, I seen it this year. I didn't mind him over the years, but I could tell this year it really looks like his leg is done. I seen these younger kickers, massive legs, just dropping haymakers. And he's 27th out of 32 teams. Time to hang it up. Great career. It's not hard to hold the ball when you're not kicking the ball. So I'm ready for it. I think it's time for a change. Cheap money. You can just put an undrafted kicker back there, and we'll be all good.
He's going to complete that Tucker trade, too.
True. Sam Cook, what do you think?
I'm not mad if he's the punter next year, but I'm not upset if he's cut.
Yeah.
I don't really bring it in. You guys said everything for both sides for me. To me, I can sit there and get angry that they, he didn't retire and they didn't cut him. It is what it is. But if he left, I wouldn't be sad. And then, they got him. They've had pretty good punters over the years.
Yeah, they have.
I know it's good. You're going years and years, but Kyle Richardson and Zassadil and him, you've had decent punters to great punters in here for years.
Yeah.
So if he's gone, he's gone. If he's here, that's great. I'm fine either way.
Damn, Garnett and fucking James are cut from the same cloth.
If not, Sam Cook could always play for the XFL, But the only way Sam, to be honest,
and the XFL just signed a deal with Dwayne Johnson that they're going to be like the minor leagues at this point.
The only way Sam Cook would be on a team, NFL team, if their punter got hurt. No one's signing this guy.
We'll see. All right, so we got a lot coming up over the next couple of weeks. We're going to get into doing some live mock drafts. We're going to have some special guests. Garnett, keep an eye out on your Twitter feed. I might send you an invite. I'd like to have you on the show just so we can talk mock drafts, who you're looking at, and all that stuff. Because we got a couple of weeks before the draft coming up. We got about a month and a half. I'll be gone for a week or two with the Vegas trip and moving and some things going on personally, but we'll definitely make some mock drafts happen, and we got a lot to break down with this team up until that draft.
100%.
All right, fellas, it's time for the Liquor Stop Brew of the Week and social media shout-out. What terrible drink are we drinking today? Because this shit is horrible.
So this actually comes from the same place as last show's brew.
Shane's about to spit it out.
He did. You need a brewing company. Did he spit out the beer? He spit out his own beer.
He made me laugh. I was like, this shit's horrible.
You need a brewing company. It's out of Salt Lake City, Utah. This one is the reason I think you don't like this one is it's a Clear Days Juicy IPA. So this is a little bit more on the hoppy side of an IPA. It's not really an IPA that's got the fruit,
apparently,
the fruitiness to it or anything like that. So it's. I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. To me, you obviously don't like it.
The can's cool.
Yeah, but again, same company that as we had the last one, that guava tart that we had last 2 weeks ago.
That was good.
So the same brewing company. So it's hit or miss. It depends on what you're in the mood for.
Listen, not going to like everything.
Not going to like everything, but make sure you get up to Liquor Stop, 1510 Conowingo Road in Bel Air. Make sure you tell them Birdland BS sent you. Get you 10% off.
And if you haven't had it yet, Jameson Orange, delicious. It's in stock. They've got it. Get up there and have it.
Everything. Everything.
Right.
Everything.
All right, fellas, it is time for some bros, bows, and O's.
Well, social media shout out, by the way.
Minute. Oh, social media shout out. Have you been taking names down?
Have you?
I haven't done this
been
in
to
a
the
while.
show before?
It's been a minute.
Old.
It's been a minute. Go ahead, James. Who do we got out there? Sorry about that, fellas.
We got Dave Mitzler with the first one in. Sharon Sherry, Chuck Summers, Travis, Steven Sievers, Garnett, Carmel, Iron Addicted, Joe Carlozo. He had a break from his taxes, so he chimed in. Samuel Jackson and Will Sable. So
appreciate everybody tuning in as always.
All up here. Oh, yep. So everybody's been chiming in. Garnett, thank you. We're on the same page. We got homers in here that love guys that love to be fan clubs. So
Jesus Christ.
you got no one to cut the cord.
All right, fellas. It's been a minute since we've talked some Bros, Bows, and O's, some Orioles.
Joe, by the way, last football note, USFL is back too, starting, I believe it's in April now.
That's hard.
April 2nd or something like that.
I think they've got, what,
hard pass.
8 teams, I think?
Yeah.
Hard pass.
Yeah. I'll watch it just because there's
We'll see
nothing
what
else to
happens.
watch. I mean,
I'll play
Christ,
my
I was
PlayStation
watching
instead.
curling, right? So I watch sports. It's sports. So
Curling's fucking awesome.
it is pretty awesome.
We need to go curling.
I got it. Can we bring that up in the after hours?
Yeah,
Yes,
we'll talk
bring it
about
up.
it.
Because
We'll bring
I'm
it up.
negative on that shit. Just to
All right, we'll talk
foreshadow.
about it.
What,
All right.
curling?
Yes.
Oh, God.
So kick us off, man. What's been going on around the Orioles and Major League Baseball?
So one of the big pieces of news, and I put that in quotes because there's really no news that can be bigger because there's nothing can be happening with players. Last week, the Orioles signed former Mariners utility man Shed Long.
Building sheds. I like it.
Sheds. They signed him to a minor league contract. This kid is a 26-year-old left-handed batter, right-handed utility man, kind of plays around the infield, played a little bit of outfield, can kind of do everything, which we've seen the Orioles in the past have success with some utility guys. So it works. I'm curious to see what happens.
Is he better than Stevie Wilkerson?
We'll find out. We'll
Everybody's
see.
better than Stevie Wilkes.
Not
Hey.
this guy's opinion.
No. 26 years old again. He was drafted by the Reds in the 12th round of the 2013 June amateur draft. He was drafted right out of high school, out of Jacksonville, Alabama. He spent 3 seasons with the Mariners major league system. Really not crazy numbers.
He's got Chris Davis type average numbers.
Yeah, he's 380 at bats. He's hitting 216. In 2021, he hit 198. He has 44 runs, 41 RBIs career wise, 8 stolen bases. He's OBP 284, slugging 376, OPS 660. This guy's he's not a splash type player. He's literally a guy that they're trying to bring in to just fill the gap. Elias was asked about this past week. He made the statement that he's trying to, and I'm going to put this in quotes because it was really bad. I laughed when I said it, or when he said it. He's trying to create an infield competition.
Oh, so he's got plans for him being in the infield. Okay, I know he's a utility player, but I thought he'd be more in the outfield.
I don't know. They asked, and I think he's looking at it as this is a guy that can make some of these other younger guys, like a Gutierrez, Juan Reyes, those type of guys, try to challenge them a little bit because this guy has the more major league experience than they do. Not that he's any better at that major league experience,
Man.
but
I was really hopeful this was the end of DJ Stewart. Like thinking that signing was going to end.
It very well could be.
DJ Stewart, regardless of who they brought in. You could
very-
go in there and try
100%.
out. The motherfucker should be gone.
It very well could.
Fred said and shed. Isn't that what you said, Drew?
Yes.
Coming to an
man.
outfield near you.
But there was other news.
I'll hide in the corner back there in that new section of the wall.
Hey, those are my seats. But no, the other news that came out this past week involved a now former Oriole that I'm sure Drew is very happy to hear is going to probably stay a former Oriole after this.
Yeah.
As former Oriole Matt Harvey is facing suspension from the MLB for 60 days or more. So here's what happened. If you haven't heard about this, it came out that he was indicated in an investigation surrounding the death of former Angels pitcher Tyler Skaggs. He's a young pitcher.
Yeah.
I think he was like 23 or 24 years old, maybe 25. But he's a young guy, good arm in their organization. And apparently the investigation originally was around fentanyl was found in his system. And so it was looking at the trainer and everything like that. Well, they called several people and several players that had played around him in the Angels organization. Multiple admitted to opioid use. And Matt Harvey not only admitted to opioid use, he admitted to giving Skaggs some unprescribed opioids.
Matt Harvey's had a pretty bad drug history from what I've heard.
It has been pretty rough. So
Explains those fucking nosebleeds.
the crazy part about this was an admission in federal court, right? That he gave Skaggs the opioids on multiple occasions. So not only is there MLB repercussions here, but this is technically considered it's illegal drug distribution.
Hey, I don't want to say you're wrong because I know you usually like to get arguments. the players that testified though, since it's a federal investigation, like they have immunity. They were talking about it on the Fan this week.
So
they were saying like that doesn't stop the MLB from doing what they want to do, but in order for him to get in trouble with the government, they would have to prove that anything at all that he testified against was a lie. So that's why you hear all this. I did cocaine before, right. Before games.
So there's two
he was
parts.
Completely blunt with it because he had immunity.
There's two parts to my statement with that. I agree with you 100%. He could be committed if they could find any perjury, right? The other side to this is if there is any player, omission is the same form as perjury. And if you don't say, like, let's say he gave, and I'm just going to use your name. No. If he gave Fred, you're going to lead it.
Man's out on drugs. We already know this.
Yeah, no. If he gave Bob, right? If he gave Bob drugs as well, but he didn't admit it there, right? If he didn't admit that, but he was distributing, and they found that out through this investigation, there's going to be a federal investigation surrounding him, and if there is anything found that he did not admit in court, it's considered still perjury, but at the same time, he also could be then tried for that because it wasn't involved in that investigation, in that perjury situation. So there's a lot going on here, and that was my implication that there are some legal ramifications, meaning he's going to be further investigated. Did he give those opioids to any? He admitted to Tyler Skaggs. I did not hear about any other players that he admitted to giving them to. If there's any additional player that he admitted giving them to, at that point, that is where he could fall under the legal side of distribution at that point. Now, to your point there, because he did it in an investigation.
I just want the MLB to focus on other things.
Yeah. Like, how about this? Breaking news. There's a fucking lockout, guys. Did you not know that? There's a lockout still going on.
No, I didn't.
Jesus Christ.
Well, and they pushed spring training back.
Finally pushed spring training back. Yeah, we didn't see that coming at all. Now, at least that sounds like it's pushed back through March 5th. I know the Players Association, MLB, is supposed to be meeting, once a week, I think now.
No, it's every day this week.
It's every day. Well, what are they doing, though? They're meeting for like 10 or 15 minutes and being see you later.
So it's escalated.
Yesterday was some progress because they met for about an hour and a half, and then they took a 4-hour break. The party split apart on opposite sides of the stadium that they were at, and then they came back together for over 3.5 hours. So a total of 5 hours at the table together means progress. It wasn't a 15-minute conversation like it has been.
It's all it's been. A 15-minute meeting. Like, what the fuck? What are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
That could have been done in a goddamn Zoom.
Yeah,
exactly.
Wait your meeting.
Exactly. But no, when you look at this, there's some pain points that are coming out, right, of where these two sides stand. So let's talk about a few of those pain points because it has to do with some of the things that affect our current players and players for us in the future. So minimum salary. The MLB is at $630 as the minimum. $630,000 is the minimum. Major League Players Association wants $775.
Okay.
Hopefully they can meet in the middle.
Seems like that should be a pretty easy negotiation.
It should be, right? I'm going to skip the one that I know that you want to get to, which is the pre-arbitration poll. We're going to get to that in a minute. The players are also trying to offer up a way to offset some of the things. So they're offering 2 revenue streams, 2 9-figure revenue streams, one of which is a playoff expansion. MLBPA is saying 12 teams, expand it to 12 teams. However, the MLB is saying if we're going to expand, it needs to be to 14 because 14 gets to $100 million in TV revenue. All right. So you have that side of things. The other one, which is the one that I'm so surprised that they're bending on, ads on uniforms.
Like
NASCAR.
Like what the NBA is doing right now and what NASCAR does.
Yes.
Okay.
So ads on that. So that's one of the areas that they're expecting there to be some flexibility. Huh?
What's the difference in agreement on that?
There hasn't been much out there on the ad side of things. It seems like the players are open to it. The owners are open to it. It's just, I think the other thing is hinging it because they're going to be able to make revenue, but it's like, okay, what are the stipulations?
What's the cut?
And it's not even that, but what are the stipulations? Does it have to be national ads? Can it be local ads, right? Like, just like your ballpark, is it going to be everybody?
Who gives a shit if it's national or local? If the price tag is the price tag and they pay it, they pay it.
Because if you
Birdland BS wants to sponsor them for $2.5 million and we can come up with $2.5 million, then whatever. I mean, it shouldn't matter.
In
my opinion.
Not coming out out of my bank account.
Coming out of mine. It's you two.
We'll come up with it in a few weeks.
Hey, if you're talking about revenue, them being locked out, there ain't no revenue coming in anyway, so this
Right.
doesn't fucking help anyway.
Yeah. The other thing that hasn't even been talked about yet is the two sides have not even
DH
begun to talk about the luxury tax. They've talked about the DH.
No, it's affirmed.
It's the DH is affirmative. They're going to go with the DH all around. The other thing, so I'm going to get into the arbitration pool, and then the bigger one that I know that you wanted to get into was actually the service time manipulation.
Yeah.
So the arbitration pool, this is how far apart these two sides are. MLB is saying $15 million to 30 players. What that means is that's the pre-arbitration pool. That's the pool that MLB basically can say yes to 30 players to avoid arbitration. You can hand that money out, and it covers the teams.
Gotcha.
And covers the contracts. MLBPA is saying they want $115 million
Holy shit.
for 150 players.
Okay, I don't know the math on that real quick, so I don't know the percentage per player.
You're talking about
They shot their
it's
shot,
10 times as much
basically.
for 5 times as many players.
Stars.
Okay.
Right? So it's basically almost saying my money. It's a little bit more per player under the MLB than it is for
What's their justification behind that?
allowing more players more money. Because under the other one, it's the worst of both worlds, so to speak, right? It's 15 million for 30, so only 30 players get the
Right.
They're already
get the eligibility on it
They're already
versus
getting enough
115.
money. They get way too much money.
So, yeah, they do. I agree with that. So the other side to this is that they are expected to address this and potentially offset it with talking about the draft lottery. So right now, the MLB is on 3 teams on the draft lottery, which is the top 3 picks are a draft lottery.
Okay.
MLBPA is apparently willing to flex on the arbitration pool piece if they bump the draft piece to 4 teams or more.
That seems pretty easy to negotiate.
So you should be able to negotiate considering the money that's involved there. So we'll kind of see what happens. But the bigger one that I know that you want to talk about is the service time manipulation. So let me break down what are the two sides, and then I want to get your opinion. So MLB, here's what the MLB is apparently offering. They're offering 2 draft picks within the player's first 3 years if he finishes in the top 3 in Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, or MVP voting. So meaning within 3 years of being drafted, so you have to get him up there. You can't keep this guy down in the minors.
I like it.
If you get him up there and he is a top tier player in the league, you get 2 draft picks, 2 compensatory draft picks.
So like
Usually like
middle
second,
round?
third rounders.
Okay.
So
I like that a lot.
it's not horrible, right? So the Players Association is saying players receive a full year of service time in their rookie season if infielders and catchers finish among the top 7 for their position in WAR in each league. So they're breaking it out by league, with outfielders, relief pitchers, and starting pitchers finishing have to be in the top 20 in their positions. The union also said it would accept a modification of the MLB's proposal that would reward draft pick compensation to teams whose players finish among the top 3 in Rookie of the Year, MVP, and Cy Young. So MLB is saying, we want the top 3. They're agreeing that top 3 could be it. But it sounds like they want more players to actually get the opportunity here. I don't know the full details of that, and that's what hasn't come out yet. But basically, that service time manipulation piece, they're trying to force teams to, both sides,
To
in a
get
sense.
guys up sooner.
They want guys up sooner.
Yay. I'm all for it because, listen, I've never understood the whole MLB manipulation of player service time, contract money, that whole thing. It's never made sense to
So
me.
here's the other side to this. The MLB is making the argument that, look, we made the adjustment for the minors to pay them more. Now you want them to be there less and pay them more?
Yeah, but these guys still get paid.
They
like,
still
some of
need
these
to be
guys get, like,
paid.
$5,000 a year.
Yeah, like
for a
these guys
season.
still need to
Come
be
on.
paid a lot more than they are, regardless of how long they are there.
Agreed, but it can't be like the MLBPA. Part of one of the original things, and they moved past that part, was the minors getting much more money.
The thing that drives me crazy with this is that, listen, there's plenty of players in minor league systems who need development time before they're ever ready to get to the MLB, if they ever get there, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the point of minor league baseball. And I understand they have never played a 162-game season in their life or anything like that. So there's an argument for like pitchers' arms and that kind of thing, and they got to build up to it. I get all that. But wasting productive years of surefire players like Adley, for instance, right, and top elite level talent makes zero sense to me. Adley's 24 now. He's 24, right? This was a 4-year college player who was the elite of the elite in college.
Everybody knows this guy could have come in and in our organization started day one coming into the organization.
He was the number 1 overall draft pick.
He could have been a Griffey-esque type player.
Right. He was the best defensive catcher in the system, in our system, the day he was drafted. We talked about that multiple times. Would have worked his way to being probably a top 5 hitting catcher within the first year or two of him being in the MLB. Mm-hmm. Why waste years of this guy's career to save money in the long run? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. You wait until he's 25 to bring him up, maybe get a solid 10-year career out of this guy when you could have had a 13 or 14-year career out of this guy if you bring him up earlier and let him learn on the job.
And this goes to
not signing him.
This goes to the argument that
the Orioles probably wouldn't sign him. That's why if they get more years if they keep him now and less money than him coming up. And they get
but that's stupid. None of the other major league sports operate that way. You've got football players that are 21 years old.
But not many other major league sports have the farm system and the developmental system that the MLB has. That's my only argument against it.
No, here's the thing. I'm not for getting rid of the minor league system. I'm all for the minor league system. It exists.
I get what you're saying.
I'm just talking about the elite level talents. Like, I don't want to, hold on. I don't want to compare Adley and Grayson because they're two totally different players. You've got a catcher who's a positional player who hits versus a pitcher who's never played.
Who needed to go through the development system because the development system worked for him.
And you're talking about a 4-year college player versus a high school player.
Right.
That's two totally different animals. They're not comparable. But Adley Rutschman is, in my opinion, a waste of talent being at the minor league level for 3 years before you bring him up.
I agree with that. And so this is where I kind of was going with it. And Drew, I'll get to you here in a second. Is one of the things that the MLB PA is saying is that stuff like that is attributing to teams tanking. If I don't got to bring a guy up, I'm not going to.
I agree.
I don't want him to be there because I want to have that contract for a longer period of time. From this is hard for me to say because I completely disagree with it, but from the owner's standpoint, they are operating this as a business.
I get that.
Right? I want to make money. I'm sitting here as a fan going, how many people would be coming to more games to see a guy like Adley?
We just went to Bowie. We've been to Aberdeen. We've been to all these games. When these top-level players are there, they sell out these small stadiums. You bring him up. Do you remember, like, a few years back, all the hype around Matt Wieters when he came up, all the hype around Manny Machado when he came up? Like, of course, Gary remembers.
Gary always remembers.
When those guys come up, like, even if it's on a bad team, they draw fans.
Yes.
They draw jersey sales. They draw all of it. It makes no sense to me. I just think it's bullshit.
As long as the production,
baseball needs to fix it.
As long as the production is there, the name starts to do it. And I think I agree with you. Again, I'm not trying to defend the MLB. But I do try to take a step back and look and say, well, the MLB is ultimately an entertainment business, but it is a business. So they're looking and saying, how do I do business? Do I cut off my nose to spite my face? For some people, cutting off their nose is worth spiting their face because now they're the face of something, right? So I know that's a bad analogy, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah. If they can say, well, I can hold on to Adley for another year to have him ready when we're ready to make a run, that's what teams are doing. And in some cases, it has worked. And that's the problem for MLBPA is the MLB is saying, we got you more money because we did that.
Right.
Those contracts in Houston happened because of the way that things were handled in Houston. Yeah. Not because of the arbitration. So I get it.
Look what
I don't agree with it. I agree with you. I think it needs to happen. But at some point, there's got to be something. And that's where it sucks because I think the MLBPA made the bad move a week and a half ago when they said no federal arbitrator. And I think their lawyers said, look, if you're going to turn down the federal arbitrator, you're not the one walking away. Because I have heard rumors from somebody that is down there. I'm not releasing names, but it's somebody that's down there.
He's a catcher.
No, he's not. that is saying that 15-minute meeting,
Yeah.
MLB was ready to go, saying, let's talk. Let's do. The PA said, you either move on these 2 items or we're walking out the door. And that's exactly what happened. The MLB said, no, we're not talking about those 2 yet. Let's start with these, because the MLB was trying to go for the low-hanging fruit. And the PA said, nope, we're handling the top issues or we're not talking. And it was like, you got to start small. You got to the point of Fred Manfred of what he said. He said, we're hoping we can work on some small things to get to the bigger issues and make some progress. But apparently, supposedly, the PA was not willing to do that, and they're the ones that walked out of that 15-minute meeting, not the owners for the MLB.
All right.
I do want to get Drew's take real quick.
I don't want to be anticlimactic. Like, you guys have kind of covered everything. I guess for me, the thing I want to bring up, I've seen it a good bit, and I mean from guys like we hear on the Fan and from like a Joel Sherman, like, okay, now, especially now, say you're in a real negotiations. Stop this lockout bullshit. Let's just say you're gonna have a deal in place by March 10th. Let's just say as fans set that parameter in our heads that like by like March 10th they'll have something in place. Open the shit back up, because you got a lot of stars out there that still haven't signed. You know what I mean? Like there's still a lot of players that haven't. Freddie Freeman, Correa.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't matter where they're going to fucking go. I don't care where they go. Like, it could be cool if there was one of them was here. But, like, just in general, like, you open – if I always just assume with no CBA, like, the lockout was, like, cut and dry. And I'm finding out now, like, no, you don't need to have a lockout.
Right.
So, to me, I can't really add anything to what you guys are saying. The only thing I can add is, all right, now that we're at least in real negotiations and it seems like at least there's news – say, you know, on February 28th, we're opening up the season, you know, the lockout's over, report in a week, and free agents can start signing and get the shit underway, at least give fans some kind of hope. But if you keep this just clouded shit, that doesn't matter.
It's not doing anything good for the game of baseball right now.
It just sucks.
It's just a bunch of fucking whiny people. They need to get it done. So let's wrap this up really quick. And I want to ask you guys, yes, no. You don't have to go elaborate. Do they get this deal wrapped up in the next week?
In the next week?
Next week.
Like by this time next week or the end of this week, this Friday?
This time next week. A week from today.
Now,
a week from today, are we saying the lockout's done and they've agreed?
If you're saying by Friday, no.
Saying by the end of a week from today, Tuesday.
Possibly. I think the MLB PA showing up the way they did, they were apparently there like an hour early today, or I'm sorry, yesterday and today, to kind of meet and discuss before they went in. So I think they're serious about needing to get something done because they want to get it. It's possible, but I'm going to say no. I think it doesn't get done for another 2 weeks.
Drew.
I don't fucking know anymore. I'd like to be, I'm normally pretty pessimistic about things. The way the last couple days has gone, like it makes me feel a little more optimistic that say like this time next week that you could have a deal in place. I will say I've changed my tune a little bit because like probably a week and a half ago I was like, these motherfuckers aren't gonna they might be playing in June.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's a toss up for me.
All right.
So he's along the same lines as me.
Also,
All right.
James, what do you think?
Bright, one, and simple. It's a no because it's MLB and we know what they do. No.
Thank you. That's exactly the kind of answer I was going for. You guys played the fucking fence on both of them. No, I don't. They're both greedy. I think if a deal was going to get done within the next week, that deal probably would have happened by now.
The fact that they spent 5 hours yesterday arbitrating, and I still haven't heard that they've gotten out of the meeting. I was sitting here looking on Twitter a second. I haven't heard or seen anything that they've come out of the meeting for today, which means they will have been in the meeting for at least 5 to 6 hours today.
Ryan even chimed in. No.
There's there you go. But there's
I don't have faith in them. Talk about being pessimistic.
I don't.
I'm super pessimistic about baseball.
In one day, you spent more time together than you did in 2 months. I think something is happening that there, again, because you said no to the federal arbitrator, I think something on the PA side said, you guys need to get in there and fucking talk then.
Okay. I like it.
MLB hasn't swayed me, but Scott has.
right, fellas, it's time for this week's rundown.
Hodgepodge.
That's right. So I'm going to kick this one off with some NASCAR.
Woo!
2022 kicked off with a bang at the Daytona 500. And on his 85th birthday of car owner Roger Penske, 23-year-old NASCAR Cup Series rookie Austin Cindric beat Bubba Wallace to the finish line by 0.036 seconds in overtime.
Give me a hell yeah.
Right?
like a piece of a bumper, too.
Won Sunday's 64th running of the Daytona 500 in front of what was an absolute packed house.
Yeah.
I grew up a
Sold out.
I grew up a NASCAR fan because my father was a big NASCAR fan.
NASCAR, fast car.
I watched a lot of NASCAR. It was
always
very
respected
different.
NASCAR.
It was very different back then than what it is now. Obviously, it's very commercialized, and it's just everything is political in NASCAR anymore. But there was a lot of good, man. They everyone getting adjusted to the new next gen cars in this race. They had some big pileups that we've seen over the years in Daytona. It happens. That was to be expected in this race, especially with everybody kind of getting adjusted.
Slayer car.
Right. Car safety, though, obviously was a main point of emphasis with this new car. And it passed with flying colors. There were a couple of big wrecks that people just walked away from. Very, very minor injuries.
Flipping the defense and all that stuff. Yeah.
The flipping the fence. Byron Burton flipped upside down in a hard wreck early on in that race. Walked away with minor scratches. As far as the car and what it looked like, I mean, there was obviously some minor cosmetic stuff, number placement. They went with these more like JDM's kind of style wheels, which is different to see on a NASCAR.
Well, the single lug nut style.
Single lug pattern, which is more of like a F1 type thing.
They did see some issues with that in the race.
They did. And then obviously they had more of like a rigid body line. So it was a little bit different of a car, but whatever. NASCAR's NASCAR. They go real fast around a fucking oval and they turn left all day.
Make a left turn.
The main issue I noticed in this race, and I think they're going to have to learn from, is there was a lot of damaged cars that seemed to not be able to move anywhere, especially once they got flat tires. They were done.
Joey Logano got stuck.
Right. I mean, you've always seen these guys rolling in basically on the rims. You didn't see that in this race. If they blew a tire out, they were done. They weren't going anywhere. So that's going to create extra work, obviously, for the rescue and the wrecker teams and that kind of thing. But it's going to be an adjustment for fans and drivers, I think. But it'll continue to evolve as they get more, detail and they get more data collected. So
I've seen some mid-season adjustments too.
Yeah, it was super fun to watch. And again, in front of a packed house, it's cool to see all those people out there getting to watch a major sport event.
Well, speaking of watching a major sporting event, one place that you never do that is Washington. Okay, unless it's the Capitals. Unless it's the Capitals, I'm pointing at you, Drew, because I know it's the Caps. I got to make sure I clarify that. But the Washington Commanders, as they are now named,
Washington Commandos.
Yeah, that name was so not thought through, by the way. But they're rumored to be willing to trade anyone for anything to secure a franchise QB, because there were rumors. And we read it. We were out Saturday, and I read you the tweet. It was Chase Young and 3 picks for next year for Deshaun Watson. Chase Young and 3 picks for Deshaun Watson. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That didn't make sense, especially with Chase Youth and the issues going on with Deshaun Watson on and off the field. Crazy to even say. Potential targets at QB, they're looking at Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Jimmy G, Carson Wentz, and Deshaun Watson. Like, what are you thinking? Like, you're literally willing to give away the house just to get a QB?
Well, I can tell you now, if they're actually interested in Jimmy G or Russell Wilson, those 2 teams will listen for a package that includes Chase Young and a bunch of picks.
Chase Young and Bosa, are you kidding me? On the same squad would be crazy.
Drew, what do you got?
Well, let's talk about quarterbacks some more. Some of the little guy in the quarterback room.
The meanie guy. Mini-me.
So if you haven't noticed, it's the kind of the thing of these younger generations.
True, that wasn't subtle at all, by the way.
Yeah. Kyler Murray wiped his whole social media dry. You had reports come out that Murray felt like he was scapegoated by the team. The way the season ended, the way the playoff game where they got their ass kicked, which was, he was a huge part of it. He did a lot of dumb turnovers.
Yep.
So now there's a lot of finger point coming out. Murray's getting described as self-centered and mature, where he's trying to, push the blame off on other people.
Yep.
He told, what's that goddamn guy's name? The fuck quarterback. Colt McCoy.
Yeah.
He's like, I ain't going back in that playoff game, which I get a little bit like, I see people give him shit for not going back in the game, and you don't want to hear that from a player, but
That's your leader.
you should,
Yeah.
with that, but he should have gone anyway. They were already getting their ass kicked, but that shouldn't be his mentality
Right.
either. Just, I'm playing devil's advocate on both sides. You even have Mortensen saying that there are select veterans players that are planning to reach out to him to try to guide him in the right direction. I don't think it's my opinion. I don't think it's. I won't say it's much ado about nothing, but it isn't like he has a leg to stand on. Like, unless you're just completely done with playing football, the only place you're going to play is the Cardinals. Like, you're not gonna hold out. It's not kind of the same thing with Why. It's not the same Watson situation.
Right.
So you're not going to end up holding out. But I mean, I'm not a big fan of Murray anyway. Like, you're going to get to this point where we always think about with quarterbacks, they command a certain amount of money one way or the other. That's literally a guy that cannot stay healthy.
Right.
So, like, if you're the Cardinals, maybe, you're kind of hoping he
Some
plays
people thought he would get paid more than Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, but maybe if you're the Cardinals, you're hoping that he plays himself out on your own and not having to force him out in some way.
That's right. Scott.
Well, speaking of not being able to stay healthy, let's talk about a dead horse.
Oh,
Beating a dead horse?
Beating a dead horse. No. So news yesterday broke late afternoon yesterday as the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission, the commission that oversees the Kentucky Derby, they stripped Medina Spirit of the Kentucky Derby title that he won last year. The horse. This is the second horse in 146-year history of the race that has been disqualified for a banned substance. If you don't remember, the horse tested positive for the banned substance, which was which is crazy because they allow it, but just not on race day. So why is it banned if it helps the horse every other day, but not that day?
Right.
I don't get it. Whatever. But he was trained by Bob Baffert, and we all know that name because he's had several horses win the Kentucky Derby as well as the Preakness. He also is now being told that he is banned for 90 days from horse racing. He's being hit with a $75,000 fine and must now forfeit the nearly $2 million prize for winning the Kentucky Derby. That horse did pass away late. I want to say it was August of last year. And so, unfortunately, Baffert is expected to appeal the decision. Churchill Downs issued the statement declaring Mandaloon, who came in second, the new Kentucky Derby winner. Congratulated the farm, which is Juddmonte Farms, trainer Brad Cox, and the jockey Florent Garreau. If upheld, the interesting piece here, Brad Cox will become the first Louisville native to win the race in history, and will actually get that purse of 1.8. So crazy.
So he still will get the purse.
He will get the purse. That's why they make Baffert forfeit it. He'll get the purse.
Right.
But again, that just interesting historical note that he will become the first in the histories of the race. He will become the first Louisville native where the race held to actually win it.
That's pretty cool.
How does horse racing get this right, but MLB doesn't get the fucking...
Yeah, Scott's all worried about, they've been in there for 5 hours. They're just playing Go Fish in that motherfucker. They're not doing anything. They're just like, let's just say we're doing something.
MLB can't get it right with the World Series not being taken away from Houston, but,
yeah,
all the signs point to Houston.
Metal.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this last topic here, if you hadn't seen this, you're living under a rock.
You are under a rock.
Absolutely. The Wisconsin and Michigan
You're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about it a lot fucking more in the after hours.
We will.
We're going to all be quiet. Fred can share the story, and then we'll share our opinions.
We'll talk more on Sell and Tell as well about this.
Sell and Tell?
Shell and Tell.
Okay.
Slurring. I had too many drinks, apparently. But...
You're the new
Wolverines head coach Juwan Howard, who has been an asshat since day one, since he was a player and since he's been a head coach.
He was in the Fab Five and a dick.
He hasn't matured at all. He was upset because, Wisconsin's head coach, Greg Gard, called a timeout with 16 seconds left in the game despite being up by 15, which I understand him being upset with it. I don't fault him for being upset with it. I think that would have pissed me off too if I was playing against him.
I'll say my
hold
opinions.
on. And obviously it rubbed Juwan Howard the wrong way because he tried to avoid the handshake line altogether in this thing, but then ended up coming through and just tried to walk past the Wisconsin's head coach. And Wisconsin
Did he just try to walk past?
He tried to initially, and then guards stopped him, and that's where things started getting escalated. Because then the finger pointing started happening, and it got escalated from there. And then Howard bitch slapped some assistant coach. It was terrible. It was like a fucking claw. It wasn't even a punch. It was this whole thing.
That's okay. He balled his fist up after
He did.
Yeah.
He tried to make it look like it was legit. Too bad that we have 4K cameras out there, Jawan. We all saw it. Right? This is just his MO. This is who he is. This is how he is. And he tried to put it off when he did it against Turgeon last year when he got all upset. He's like, "Oh, I'm from South Side of Chicago." Blah blah blah. So, go fuck yourself, Jawan Howard. And honestly, like they did end up giving him a punishment. He's going to be suspended for the rest of the regular season when it's being 5 games.
Fucking games.
Yeah, I don't know what the suspension should have been. I guess everybody from the outside looking in could be like, oh yeah, like this guy should be banned and this guy should be fired and da 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 da. Who knows what's actually going to happen from the university? I will say some of the tweets that went out prior to the suspension happening sounded like internally they were pretty pissed off about this. So there could still be things.
Boosters were not happy.
Right. There could still be things that happen in the offseason. But as far as in this season, he will be suspended for the rest of the regular season. But we will talk more about that in the after hours.
No rules. No boundaries. 2 topics. 30 seconds each. It's time for the 2-minute warning.
All right, fellas, it's time for the 2-minute warning. I'll be honest with you, I have not read these questions at all yet, so I'm going to let you kick this one off.
Yeah, I'll take it.
I'll let you start this one. Who's reading the questions this week?
reading them.
You are, James?
Yep.
All right.
You guys ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Now, do you think the NBA should change some things about the All-Star events?
After this year's debacle, fuck yes, that fucking slam dunk contest was horrible. There were more misses this year in the slam dunk contest than I think in the past 8 or 10 years combined. It was ridiculous. Guys couldn't even get the ball around. They were like throwing it up off the backboard and then throwing the ball out to mid-court because they can't catch it and dunk it in. Horrible dunk contest, and it's because you have some of the guys that are lesser known guys. It's becoming a problem. Just get the big guys out there.
Yeah, absolutely. The dunk contest has gone so far downhill. And this was one of the sports that used to get the All-Star game and events right.
Yeah.
Like the skills challenge and all that stuff, still fun to watch. The game is terrible. There's absolutely no defense. They don't really play. They don't really play until the last 5 minutes of the game anyway. But the dunk contest, you had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar get up and fucking walk out of the stadium halfway through the dunk contest. That's how bad this was. And there's just nobody in it, no names. Force the big guys to be in it. Make the payday a little bit better for them. Give the fans what they want to see.
All right. And if you had a chance to own a pro team, what would it be and why?
Business decision. It's an NFL team, and here's why. Because an NFL team is one of the teams that they have a controlled salary cap. I know what I'm going to get out of your year, but they're also one of this is a multi-billion-dollar industry. I'm going to be able to make a good amount of profit and have a good product in most cases as long as I put some good people around me, so i.e. nobody in this room.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be MLB because they can't fucking get anything right, and there's no money. That thing is going, meow. So maybe I buy in because the stock is low and I get it cheaper. I don't know. It's definitely going to be...
Buy low, go lower.
For me, it's one of two things. If I'm buying with my heart and what I'm passionate about, I'm buying an NFL team. If I'm buying something from a business standpoint, it's going to be a Euro soccer team.
Hell yeah.
Because there's
Good
so
answer.
much
I hate
money
soccer.
into all that. Can't fucking stand soccer, don't know the first thing about
yeah,
it.
it's a great
But there's
interview.
so much money in those teams.
Also, offset that, some of the highest contracts in all of sports.
That's true too, but you got to make money to pay money.
Agreed. Fair enough.
All right, Scott. Good show, man. Great job. It felt good to be back in the studio
great
with
to
you
be back
guys.
in the studio.
It was. Ryan, again, we're thinking about you. I know you've been in the chat room all night chiming up, but hope you're feeling better.
Back in the
we'll see you
studio.
next week.
We're not going to quite ruin Ryan's by showing anything else, but we will have these two guys. I would like them to show off their gifts because I thought
Yeah,
they
man,
came
for
out
sure.
pretty
Big
cool.
shout out to Foster Bats for this, man. This is really cool. Drew, go ahead and show yours.
We'll do it after. We'll do it after
Oh,
hours.
okay,
We'll do it
never
after
mind.
hours. We'll do it after hours. But if one of you wants to open yours so that we can show it after hours, that'd be good. But we want to remind all of you guys, check out the website, www.birdlandbs.com. While you're there, you can check out all of our episodes. You guys asked about it. Get yourself some Birdland BS gear. You can check out our bio link as well. Several of you guys have also chimed in and asked us, how you can donate. We appreciate all the donations. Literally goes right back into the show. Same as the sponsors. We just make a better product each time for you.
Yeah.
Updates coming to the studio. Exciting. We got samples already. Looking like it's going to kind of come and mesh together pretty well over the next few months. So exciting news there. Make sure you also check us out on all our social media pages. At Birdland BS is how you find us on all those. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, share while you're there. Turn on the bell notifications, whether it's YouTube, Twitter, so that you know when we go live or we put out new content. Make sure you also check out the audio version of the show on all of our social media pages. You can check out the audio version and all of your podcast apps as well. Thanks for tuning in, as always, guys. For Fred, James, Drew, and Ryan, who's singing home, get better, buddy. This is Scott signing off. We'll see ya.
See ya. Time for the after party.
It's last call for alcohol. We did it right this week.
We did. Hey, that was a good show.
man.
It felt good.
That's a great show. It felt really great.
It's not even 10 o'clock. That's because Ryan's not here. Did I tell you the air in here is a lot cooler? There's not a lot of hot air flowing around. No, I'm just fucking with you, Ryan. I love you.
I didn't hear this all show.
He's like eating the mic. How's that taste over there, James?
Oh, man. Oh, man.
All right, so we got to talk about some of this stuff. Obviously, I talked about the Michigan and the Wisconsin game.
Yeah,
you, I guess, have a little different recollection of how that happened or how it went down?
First of all, you left out the fact that Juwan Howard made a comment to Guard before Guard said anything to him. Guard extended his hand.
He said, "I'll remember that," is all he said.
I'll fucking remember that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I mean, I drop the F-bomb like every 5 seconds.
But he at that point, Guard was kind of.
I'm not one to defend Juwan Howard.
So if you're walking past me and
here.
you say something like that, it's like, hey, wait a second. Everybody's saying, "Oh, he grabbed his arm." He didn't grab his arm and and muscle.
No, he tried to stop him to have a conversation.
Right, exactly. So then you have that whole thing of him bringing it down. If you want to have a conversation, that's fine. I don't know. And here's the other thing that's been said in some of the spaces I was in. We have no fucking clue what that assistant coach said to him.
Yeah.
No matter what, you hit a guy and you had players going after it. You are an educator.
He's supposed to be the leader of young men.
You are a coach at that collegiate level. That's the problem I have here.
100%.
Is that you are supposed to be leading these kids down the right path and show them, I'm not saying it needs to be Phil Jackson-esque, right? But it kind of needs to be. You're in that position that you can influence decisions that they make for the rest of their lives. And if they see the people that lead them around them making decisions that are poor, what's going to happen? You saw the one kid in the background. As soon as Juwan started going at him, he started going. Right? He's having to be held back. That's the problem here. There's problems on both sides. I agree. But Juwan Howard crossed the line. You could have walked. You started to walk away. You went back to the line, which I respect. And Breslin out at Michigan State had some words on that. I want to get into that too. But when he went through that, all you had to do was, hey, all you have to do is say, I'm hot-headed right now. Now's not the time for us to talk, bro. And I get it. In a situation,
yeah.
Maybe I'm not saying that, right? I'm saying this all, ad hoc. I'm post-partner, not postpartum, but post-situation. When it comes down to it, you make a choice. And to make a swing, this ain't the fucking NBA, bro.
It wasn't even a swing. It was a claw.
Either way, you swung your fucking arm. It was clawing like a little cat fight bitch. But at the same time,
He's from
Look,
Chicago.
here's the problem. Here's the bigger problem that I have. You're now developing a history. In 2 years, you've had 2 incidents. One you put your hands on. The other one, everybody thought you were going to because of your history in the NBA.
Right.
Michigan needs to step up here because here's the deal. Michigan's on the bubble of being able to make the tourney. They're on the bubble. I think they have to win out, but if they were to win out,
yeah, they're the first, like in the first 4 in or first 4 out right now, whatever it is.
right. But that's the thing. So if that happens, what the fuck does the suspension mean? It means nothing.
Yeah.
Five games for a coach attacking another coach as a leader of young men. I don't think it's enough. And it was funny because Ryan said when we first saw all this, when it first happened on Saturday or Sunday, he said, "Oh, it'll be NCAA will give a 3-game suspension." Well, guess what? It was a 5-game suspension. And Juwan Howard, I haven't heard yet if he's going to appeal it, but I guarantee you he appeals it in some way. And they say, all right, well, we'll reduce it. And it becomes that 3-game suspension or 4. Well, but at the same time, like that's my biggest problem. You are the leader of young men. You are shaping. That is what these coaches do. And that's the problem that starts to become when you start to monetize. When you fully monetize the NCAA, you're taking away.
Cry on me? Just cracking up there. I'm like, I had to look at him just to see. It sounded like he was crying.
When you fully monetize, there's no
crying in the after hours.
It's a passionate thing. When you fully monetize the NCAA, you take away from what college and collegiate sports are supposed to do. Yeah. They're supposed to promote things like discipline, the understanding, education.
Yeah, so
there's a lot of those things that come into play.
To that point, there were some people on social media which pissed me off, talking about, well, we just need to do away with the whole handshake.
Israel wasn't happy about that.
That's where I was going to go. Did you see Breslin from Michigan State, the head coach for Michigan State, make his comments?
Izzo?
Not Breslin. Talking about Izzo.
Izzo, yeah,
That's what
sorry.
he's talking about. Yeah, Izzo was pissed off.
Breslin, Michigan is where it's at.
I had put a tweet out about how ridiculous it was for them to do away with this because Juwan Howard is a fucking asshat. And all the feelings I put out there, literally like 20 minutes later,
Izzo in the conference.
Izzo put the press conference out there, said exactly the same thing.
Because one guy can't stop being a goddamn fucking hothead.
Right. Exactly.
Everything.
All I know is the person that or the people have said why we need to do a handshake. Well, it's been 35 years or more that never had a problem until now. Those are the same people that think they should have participation trophies for people.
Here's my.
Oh
shit! Here we go. Now I gotta go turn it off. Give me this.
Wait a minute, no.
Don't hit too many buttons.
There we go. Look at you figuring this shit out.
I remembered.
But no. So here's my take on that whole thing. Right, the whole handshake thing, I think, needs to be something that is carried. It's carried from the NCAA, and in my opinion, it should be across all sports. So here's one thing I never understood. At the little league level, the high school level, rec level, you talk about college level. What happens after an MLB game?
Yeah, they all slap hands at the end of the game.
Doesn't happen in MLB.
I agree with that.
It should.
Yeah, it shows sportsmanship. It shows that you respect the game and you respect your opponents.
There's a game that it's legal to fight.
Right.
Then it happens at the end of the game.
No, forget that. It doesn't happen at the end of like every game.
It should though. It happens at the end of most games.
No, listen. I'm going to one up you and add what you're saying because even though you kind of might be selling me on the whole MLB thing, but you brought up the NHL. I'm the NHL guy. These guys, you can be in the middle of the Western Conference Final, Game 7, double overtime. You kick the shit out of each other for 7 games plus because you know there's always overtimes in these games. And before you even go celebrate that you're going to the fucking Stanley Cup, you're going down a line to fucking shake the hand of the guys you just kicked their ass for a week and a half.
But it's ultimate respect for the other team to say,
yes,
you kicked our ass.
Ryan just brought up a great point. UFC, these guys are fucking kicking the shit out of each other, hug and shake hands after their match.
In most
for the most
situations,
part.
yeah.
Right? Like,
and they shit talk on
boxing the same way. Boxing the same way.
Right.
UFC's gone the way of wrestling like that, where it kind of becomes about like what can they do in the social media and the weigh-ins and all, and shit talk each other. But once you lose. All right, man.
It's good. You're going to have those ass hats, like he said. Conor McGregor, he's an ass hat. He was one of them that did it. But at the end of the day, to remove it, like this is what our society is doing right now, is that if something is like a problem, we just remove it altogether instead of fucking addressing it.
We don't worry about it by not having it.
Yeah, like let's just forget it ever existed. What the fuck are we doing? Like, Jesus Christ, get your shit together, America. Like, yesterday, get your shit together.
Well, and so, like, for me, I mean, I know it could come off as extreme, and I don't mean it as like kind of like the thump on it, but for people to think that, you know what, like if this was a fireable offense, I'm kind of in that camp. And it isn't about no race or no nothing. It's about the history. I don't care. If this would have been Wisconsin, if you reverse the roles, and this would have been Wisconsin coach had an argument with Turgeon last year, and then now you have this, and he's the one throwing the punch, I'd be saying the same thing. You cannot throw a punch. I don't care what any time. That's still simple assault, one way or the other. Now, I can understand not being fired for it, but for me, I'd have been fine with you being fired for it. I'm not super calling for it, but you know what? I can understand the camp saying. Rob Long said it on the morning show this morning. So you know what I mean? Like, I kind of think you should have been fired.
So here's the thing too.
That comes down to Michigan wanting to do that.
If this is that, remember that
to Ryan's point with that, this is a god at Michigan. This is a guy that was a part of the Fab Five, which is like what Michigan holds their fucking standard to at their basketball.
But the fact that the boosters were upset about it, it shows you that maybe the tone has shifted.
You went from
they need to get it right.
So
here's
from national championship contender last year to you might not even
make it. Exactly.
And you're punching people.
So here's the thing.
Agree.
Here's the thing with this too, right? You know, what was the first thing a few weeks ago that we all were saying when that one coach, was it Arizona or Arizona State, where the coach flipped out, was throwing the trash cans and throwing this and throwing chairs and shit like that? We were all saying something needs to fucking happen to this dude.
The players were doing it.
The players, you had the one player that I think you were the one that did the story in the rundown because you talked about more about the player that picked up for his team.
Right.
Picked up after his team, I should say.
Yeah.
You know, and that needs to be focused on. That's the problem, is that you have those situations. And I heard it, and it's right. Times have changed. Bob Knight used to do.
I couldn't stand Bob Knight back then, and I still can't stand him today.
Bob Knight used to do
for
some
all the
crazy
antics.
shit.
Great coach, but fucking terrible leader and a fucking crybaby.
Exactly. And that's one of those things that, yes, that people didn't do more. But now you have the chance to do something about it. You're talking about doing something about it. Fucking do something about it. I don't care who this is. To your point, if this is Guard, and Guard is the one that throws the punch at Juwan Howard, Guard needs to be severely disciplined.
Like I said, it's the history. It's the history
exactly.
of it. He had to be forced off the court in that Maryland situation last year.
Yep.
So who's to say if he doesn't get forced off the court that he isn't throwing a punch at somebody?
Right.
It's a track record. It's a shitty track record. It's just bullshit.
Go ahead, James.
Bullshit.
And if you're going to fight, at least knock someone out. Jesus Christ, dude.
Close that fucking fist and hit somebody like a man. Hit me, I'm 40. I'm a man.
Outside of Chicago.
It's just tired. Like,
Southside Chicago.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Jamaica, Queens.
So you kind of started to say it before we went on, but we'll show Drew and James. I'll let them show theirs.
Yeah.
James, I know you don't have yours out of the packaging, but you can still show it up and show what it says. So as the gift that I was able to finally give them for Christmas.
Okay. I
So
don't know. I gotta get all the way up on the camera.
No, you're good.
Yeah, you can see it. So nice baseball bat.
Shout out to Foster Bats, man. Your cousin.
My cousin, he actually dropped these off right before the show tonight. Look at Fred holding that
Look
bat.
at that, man. Guy looks good with a stick in his hand.
So, but great job and great work by him on this. Fosterbats.com is how you can find him. But he does
it looks
great work. Fully customized, and guys, he took a lot of time because Fred and Mai's face on a bat. Whew.
Yeah,
man.
he had
Go
to
ahead and
stare
show
at
it,
that
James.
ugly mug there for a while. So
mine should have said keep it at 100 because that's what I do in here. I keep it on 100. You guys are on like fantasy land.
Hey, no, look, I gave you the respect
should have
and
had
called you
Kickers Matter underneath
the
that.
original.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I gave you the respect and called you the original because you were the original. Drew is the casting couch veteran.
Yeah.
right? So that's what it says on the bats.
He's
and
an OG.
And then Ryan and Fred do have a extra special bat as well. So
I'm
you'll
going to
give that
hang
over
on
to
to
Ryan.
it. I'll let Ryan see it when we actually.
Yeah, so we're not going to spoil that, but little special thing. So I know it was a little. It's a little later than we originally planned, but
if you're looking for a cool gift idea for somebody that's a sports fan and you're looking for something custom, Foster Bats, you can find them on Facebook. These guys do great work. They've done work for Jimmy's Seafood. They've done a lot of work. The local restaurant up here. It's called The Local.
They did something for Looney's too.
Yeah, I'm going to take it to the batting cage this weekend.
He's also done some custom bats, and I'm going to give him a shout out in this respect because he's a little humble in this sense that he has gotten from a few different MLB players that have actually signed his bats. He's made custom bats, had them signed for an auction like bat company, and those players have apparently told that auction bat company owner that they're some of the most unique custom bats they've ever seen.
Yeah.
Honestly, we've seen a lot, and he'll admit he knows he follows some different people that do very similar things. But locally, if you're looking to support local, I've bought more. I gave Fred one that was a Birdland BS one. He got an extra special one this time.
It's awesome.
It's a little bit different. So make sure you guys check him out. But yeah, shout out to him as well.
So we're gonna I'm gonna answer one more question before we head out. And this comes from Dylan. Can you put that up on the board? Yep. He says, will the $150 million Royal Farms Arena renovation bring life to a future NBA team in Baltimore? No. Simple answer, no. That's not what the Baltimore Arena is there for, or the Royal Farms Arena anymore.
It's too small.
Yeah.
It's actually one of the most profitable arenas based on per capita in the country. This is just to bring in more of those shows and offer a better experience.
More winter concerts
to justify
and things like that.
Bringing up ticket prices and all that stuff.
Wrestling events, Scott.
The fan base here wouldn't be strong enough to support an NBA basketball.
Honestly, the three biggest getters are some of the big time comedians. Right back in the day, I remember blue collar comedy coming to town, watching them. I remember Dane Cook. I went to go see a Dane Cook show there. It was fucking awesome.
I got moved down to the stage seats, right in front of the stage because I had a fucking pole right in front of me in our normal seats.
I should have went and set up in your seats then.
George Carlin.
Yeah. when he was 10, not George Carlin. Not Fred, but George Carlin.
I did watch Thomas the Tank. He was on there as the conductor.
But no, so a lot of great stuff that's been there. But some of the biggest profiters for them are some of the big time comedians, the wintertime rock shows or some of the country shows, something that's too big for the Lyric Opera House,
right.
Those type of places. And then the other thing that's been big there historically has been what Drew has just said a few minutes ago, which is some of the big pro wrestling events. They bring in there is a big pro wrestling cult, and shout out to somebody that I know that I actually worked with for a little bit, that works with Jimmy's now, doing some of the behind the scenes stuff at some of these shows. Gennady Romitz, he is one of their guys that they have go around, and when these shows come down, AEW, WWE, he gets backstage. And he's able to do this. He's made a name for himself for this, and credit to him on that.
That's cool.
But yeah, some of those are some of the big things that make it to
Disney
that next
on
level.
Ice is a big thing
Disney
down
on Ice
there.
is what I was going to say. A lot of the kids.
Previously, the
kid-friendly
circus
stuff.
as well, right? When Ringling Brothers, when it used to come to town, would make a lot of money there.
Circuses are becoming a thing of the past.
They are
the way they are. So.
They are, unfortunately. By the way, you're talking nostalgia for a quick second. I watched something. I have to ask you guys: have any of you seen, or let me ask this? Did any of you watch when you were younger? Did anybody watch Mr. Rogers?
Oh yeah, I watched Mr. Rogers.
Have
you
you
watched the one with Tom Hanks? No. I heard it's good.
I watched it last night. My wife was not a fan of Fred Rogers. I personally was.
Remember the rumors about him when we were kids? That he had, the only reason he wore long sleeves is because he had fucking tattoos all up and down his arm, and he was some kind of
never true.
He was some kind of Navy fucking sniper or some bullshit. I don't even remember what it was.
He'd never been in the military
sniper
or anything. It was that he was in the military and that he was a sniper at some point.
Yeah, it was all this fucking badass Fred Rogers. Mr. Rogers.
They do talk about that in the movie.
To the Chuck Norris before Chuck Norris.
But the movie, honestly, I put it out on Facebook last night. We were watching it, and my wife wasn't a Mr. Rogers fan. I was, but looking at things as a parent, as an adult now, you're like, holy shit, was he fucking deep.
Yeah.
He was deep with some of the shit that he was doing. And it was what you saw on screen from everything we've ever heard, from everything we've ever seen. That was fucking Fred Rogers.
Yeah.
Like,
There's a similar documentary on Bob Ross.
Which, that is crazy
which
shit.
is really good too. So if you're bored one night, you have a whole lot to watch. The Mr. Rogers one and Bob Ross documentary.
And
both
Netflix,
really
this
good.
one got me on the damn Boeing one that's freaky recently. I don't know if I want to fly on a
Whew,
plane
if you're looking
again.
for something a little spicy, Euphoria on HBO.
All right, Ariel.
Great show. But man, there's a whole lot of sex in that show, drugs.
No, it's hilarious.
We know why you watch it.
There you go.
So it was hilarious. When we were flying to Disney, when we were going down, I sat next to our friend Oriole, and she was watching Euphoria on this thing. And I'm listening to music.
In public, she was watching
on
Euphoria?
the plane, but she was like in the middle seat. You wouldn't have been able to see it if you unless you were me. So
he was watching porn.
So listen, I'm sitting there watching. Like I'm listening.
friend's
So
rubbing one
I
out
don't
in the
know
middle
what's
of the plane.
going on. All I can read along because the subtitles and shit. You had like the bigger girl had gained weight on vacation and no one was friends with her anymore or something. And then it was like the one was transitioning and then there were dick pics over and over. What is going on? And then my wife started watching this shit. So I walked in the other night. She was watching again. Dick pics all over. What is going on?
Welcome to 2022, Drew.
Exactly.
It's on the rise.
All right, man. Well, we appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll be back next Tuesday night, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. We'll see you guys next week.